bold journalism.
But Drew Hernandez is a strong-minded individual.
Exposing lawlessness.
Drew Hernandez, who is ideological.
Finding the truth.
And use the word ANTIFA.
This is what they do.
Battling
They're
mainstream
liars. The woke mob, all they can do is lie.
These are the front lines. Welcome to TPUSA Live. Happy Friday. My name is Drew Hernandez, host of Frontlines. We've got a lot of good stuff coming up on the live stream. First up here on Frontlines, a Texas National Guard soldier has died at the southern border trying to save migrants crossing the Rio Grande illegally. Plus, Antifa is rolling out the welcome wagon for migrants who were being bused to D.C. After Frontlines, we'll send it over to the TPUSA Live couch with Jon Root and your favorite contributors. They're talking all about the massive crime wave continuing in Chicago, Earth Day, and more. Then we've got Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec, followed by a brand new episode of The Spillover, where Alex Clark is spilling all the tea on herself. Then she's back with dating advice for all the cute conservatives and dude-servatives out there, so you don't want to miss this. Frontlines is now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other streaming services. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a 5-star review now. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, smash that like button, hit the bell notification bell, and share this video everywhere. If you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, or anywhere else, please reshare this transmission right now. We depend on you to get this out now. My name is Drew Hernandez, and you are now on the front lines. Breaking news, America. Bad news. This could have been avoided. This has been breaking since this morning. The Post-Millennial reports Texas National Guard soldier drowns trying to save migrants in the Rio Grande River. Fox News' Bill Melugin reported on Friday that a Texas National Guard soldier has drowned in the Rio Grande in an attempt to rescue illegal migrants making the dangerous crossing into the United States. Melugin said that the Texas DPS confirmed to him that a body had been recovered and that a statement would soon be made. That has been updated as well because he tweeted this in the morning, and the most recent update as of right now, I believe, is that reports were that his body was recovered, but they're hearing they possibly have or may not have. We're still trying to see, but apparently the body is still missing. This is just a horrible situation. Bill Melugin has been on the border covering this for the past year and a half, going on 2 years. This is a situation that could have been avoided. I hope that they find the body. I hope there's a confirmed report that they have found the body. There is actual footage of the scene where this took place this morning. It's a very devastated situation, but this stuff could have been avoided because we have an administration right now that has incentivized millions of people from foreign countries to come into the United States of America scot-free, illegally, but they are saying that they're asylum seekers. They're claiming that they're migrants, where there are thousands of individuals, millions of people that have criminal records, rapists, murderers, you name it, kidnappers. Child rapists, child pornographers. They distribute a lot of child pornography at the southern border. This is nothing new, but this is what gets incentivized. This is what increases at the southern border. And now you're having these freak accidents that are happening at the southern border, where now we have United States National Guard soldiers dying. We shout out to their valiant efforts, especially the Border Patrol as well. They're putting their lives on the line. They're trying to do the best they can. I've talked to these men and women down there that feel like they have their hands tied behind their back. It's a very serious and terrible situation, but shame on the current administration that is putting so much pressure on these great men and women at the southern border, putting their lives on the line. I mean, some of them are getting death threats. We've seen these reports from the cartels themselves. They're very advanced on the southern border. They hack some of their devices. They hack some of their phones. They send them these threatening text messages. What's happening at the southern border could be avoided, but we have an administration right now that is installed that is literally allowing this and encouraging this to continue. Title 42 hasn't even been revoked yet. We're not even at the end of May yet, and now we have National Guard soldiers dying in an attempt to save people that shouldn't even be there in the first place. Oh, Drew, you sound like such a xenophobe. No, 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 no. The United States of America should still have laws in place. We should still uphold these laws, especially immigration laws, where people can't just literally come straight over the southern border of the United States and just claim that they're families, claim that they're asylum seekers. No, no, no. When lawlessness abounds, people get hurt. How many times have I said on this show that when you see lawlessness continue to thrive, you begin to see innocent people begin to die? This is happening on both sides of the border, and it needs to stop. I don't know. We haven't had any comment from the current administration. I'm sure we will. I don't know. We'll see if they even give some kind of respect to this National Guard soldier at the southern border that's lost his life trying to save someone that should not have even been there in the first place. But we have an administration that doesn't care. Everybody knows that by now. Doesn't care about human life, doesn't regard human life, whether it's inside of the womb, outside of the womb, whether it's someone coming from a foreign country, whether it's even a United States American at that, because now they're putting these illegal immigrants over United States American citizens' lives. That's not xenophobic. That's me being an American saying this is wrong, period. Let them say whatever they want to say. Well, anyways, I was actually thinking about this. All of 2021, what is going to be Antifa's position moving forward now that we're in post-2020 and the border is being flooded with illegal immigrants? There's millions of people coming in. I've always wondered, where is Antifa going to go from here? All the SJWs that mobilize, the social justice warriors. And now we have some footage. This is some breaking news that took place, I believe, over the night, where these illegal immigrants that are being bused from Texas to D.C., some of them are arriving in the middle of the night, and a report has come out that Antifa, this is the train station in D.C., the famous train station. If you've never been to D.C., this is one of the most hallmark places in Washington, D.C. They're showing up to the station by bus, and Antifa is facilitating, walking them from the bus, what they say is protection, from the bus to the train station, wherever they're going to be trained to throughout the United States of America. So here's the report that went out from newswars.com. Watch, Antifa radicals confront reporters as busloads of illegals dumped in D.C., and a Hispanic reporter is accused of privilege for simply being at the scene and documenting it. 2 buses carrying approximately 40 to 45 mostly male migrants, let me repeat that, mostly male migrants pulled up outside Union Station at approximately 10 p.m. on Thursday last night. The transports are reportedly the 9th and 10th to reach D.C. since Texas Governor Greg Abbott launched the operation to relocate illegal aliens from his state to the nation's capital. That's sending a message. A crowd of activists and charity workers were waiting at the scene to welcome the buses and herd the occupants into the nearby station. Reporters at the media outlets also were present, including Border Hawk, an immigration news site. This is the footage, and of course, while Antifa is facilitating these illegal immigrants to get on a train to go to God knows where, Antifa begins to block the reporters from documenting it. And here's some footage of them doing just that.
Can I ask why you guys are trying to block the cameras?
For these people, they don't need to be identified.
Why not?
Because they don't.
Tell me why.
They're not, that's not what they're here for.
You have to have a reason for what you're doing.
I'm here to help people. What are you here to do?
Oh, what do you think I'm doing?
I think you're recording.
Why are you blocking my shot, man?
Can't film inside Union Station.
You can't film inside Union Station?
Nope.
All right. Says who?
We're asking you to stay outside.
Why?
So that these people who've been through a lot of can get some help without vultures.
We're not
sitting here
interrupting.
taking
Okay, we're not
pictures of
interrupting
them.
in any way,
Yes,
shape, or
you
form.
are.
How have I interrupted?
You are here. That is enough.
You're here.
If I put my camera in your face right now,
I have
would
not
that
done that yet.
unnerve-
I have
would
not
that-
done that yet.
Would that not unnerve you?
But I have not done that.
Privilege.
Explain to me what's privilege about
Please,
this.
just leave.
This is who these people are. This is what these people do. They take advantage of desperate people that have come from foreign countries, and they claim to be the social justice warriors and the protectors of the poor migrants. We don't want them to be filmed in any way, shape, or form. The reporters have the First Amendment right of the freedom of the press to document what's happening in their own free country, if we still have a free country at this point. But this is what these SJWs want to do. They want to silence anyone that's exposing the criminal globalist operations that are taking place in the United States of America. What's the bigger picture here, Drew? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is systemic all the way from even before these migrants get to the southern border of Mexico itself. Now that a political side, when they were trying to win the White House, literally came on the world stage and said that we need to get rid of President Donald Trump because he's a racist and a xenophobe, and we need to end all of these immigration walls, take down the border wall. It's racist, it's xenophobic. Now it's going to be time for people to come because we believe so much in immigration. What that did was it incentivized, it mobilized, it activated human traffickers, cartels in Guatemala and different foreign countries to begin to gather people who want to come to the United States, because now that they see, oh, Orange Man is gone, that's just the open door to come into the United States freely. And that's been happening since this administration has taken power. Right at the beginning in 2021, illegal immigration began to skyrocket. Millions up until this very hour. Right now, hundreds of thousands are still coming into this country illegally. That's not xenophobic. That is breaking the law. Now, why do I break this down for you? Because once they did that, and illegal immigration began to skyrocket. 2021, they started flooding the United States southern border. They came from Guatemala. They came from Honduras. The caravans were all over viral, all over Twitter and the news. Even before they got to the southern border of Mexico, women and children were kidnapped, raped, human trafficked. They're dollar signs to the cartels, but they don't tell you this in the mainstream news. That's even before they get to the Mexico southern border. Some of them don't even make it to that or even past that to go through Mexico to get to the southern border of the United States. A lot of them just go missing, MIA completely, missing in action. These people are never to be seen ever again. They get kidnapped by the cartels. Some of the little girls get put into sex trafficking, pedo trafficking, child pornography rings. They use them to film child pornography. These are the horrors of what these people are being incentivized to do when they come from these foreign countries before they even get to the United States southern border. Are you feeling sick to your stomach? Yeah, I was too when I first heard this stuff from credible sources, Border Patrol agents that have been working the southern border for decades. They all know this. Even the current president knows this. The current vice president knows that these things have been happening. Now, why does this matter? Because now when they even get to the United States southern border in Mexico, a lot of them have already been raped, kidnapped, their families separated. There's a lot of men. The report said that there was a lot of more men than women and children. A lot of these men will begin to kidnap little kids. They'll threaten women. They'll tell them, pretend to be my wife or I'll kill you. Pretend that your children are my children or I'll kill you right now and you will not go into the United States of America. And then these cartels, they make money off of every single person is a dollar sign. Thousands of dollars that they pay to be smuggled from Mexico into the United States of America. And some of them get raped along the way, even in the United States. And then even when they get into the United States, this is when it becomes a huge, huge transnational human trafficking organization that the federal government is literally aiding and abetting. Our federal government right now, when the cartels send these people over the southern border, the cartels are making millions of dollars. When they send them over the southern border, this current administration has literally commanded Border Patrol, the National Guard down there at the southern border to take these people in. That's what they do. They take them in. They're essentially an Uber service. And it's been mobilized, it's been enabled by this current administration. So your Border Patrol at the southern border is being used as an Uber service to intercept, to intake these migrants that are being sent over the southern border illegally by criminal transnational cartel organizations. It's not the Border Patrol's fault. The federal government is doing this. And then from there, they put them in some kind of detention facility. They say that they're processing them. They know that they can't. They can't look at their backgrounds. They don't even know if they're actually families. They put them in some kind of facility, and then these migrants or illegals claim to have family in the United States. I want to go to Boston. I need to go to D.C. I need to go to Arizona. I need to go to California. And the federal government is using what they call NGOs. okay? Non-government organizations. It could be like a Catholic charity, or it could be someone that claims to be a social justice warrior, that is getting federal grants, that is getting donations from the federal government to take care of the migrant surge. You see how this continues to go? It is so twisted and evil. And then they take them, they put them on a plane, they fly them to wherever they claim to have family in the United States. But this is what people don't understand. The criminal cartels aren't only operating in Mexico. They're not only operating in Guatemala, not only operating in Honduras, they operate across the entire globe, including inside of the United States of America. So what people need to understand is some of these people that are desperate, they get threatened. Like I told you, the men will come out and say, pretend to be my wife or I'll kill you. Pretend to be my children or I'll kill you. So they get desperate. They pay the money. They get human trafficked. They get smuggled across the southern border. And some of them don't have the money. Sometimes they'll charge them between $4,000 to $6,000 just to get across the southern border. Do you think that a desperate migrant has $6,000 just in their back pocket ready to go? Of course not. So sometimes they have to literally sell their souls to the cartels. They literally have to go into debt with them. And here's where it gets crazy. These cartels operate in the United States of America. Some of them have gardening businesses. Some of them work in construction. Some of them have pool-making businesses. You know, like those Mexicans and those Hispanics that you always see doing the hard work here in the United States of America? Some of those businesses are cartel-ran and owned. And all this information I'm giving you are from people that have been working the southern border, that have some serious intel for decades on this stuff, beyond what's been happening since 2021. So what happens is when these people claim to have family, the federal government is paying for them to go to wherever they claim to have family. What's crazy is they're just going to probably their cartel debtors here in the United States to go work off their debt for the rest of their life. They sell their souls, they sell their hearts, they sell their lives just to get into the United States of America illegally, and the federal government is literally aiding and abetting this on a daily basis. This should seriously concern you. It's evil, it's twisted, it's 100% illegal, but this is what you're seeing at the southern border. And hey, like I said, Title 42 hasn't even been ended yet, but it will at the end of May, and we will be on the front lines to cover that immediately. Well, inflation is out of control, and we see that more than ever in the grocery store. If you're looking to save money without sacrificing quality, then you need to check out Good Ranchers. Their prices on 100% American meat have remained affordable, and their quality beats the store every time. Right now, you can save money, get steakhouse quality, and donate $50 to TPUSA with your purchase by visiting goodranchers.com/TPUSA. Take the guesswork out of the grocery store and make your everyday purchases meaningful. Make your $50 donation today by going to www.goodranchers.com/TPUSA to get the quality you have been missing. All right, America, well, let's continue with our second story of the day. Postmillennial reports a young Hispanic woman attacked in Boston by large group of black teens. Now, why? For being a white B word with braids. Yes, this is where the American youth has been brought to with all of the race baiting and pinning races against each other. But this story is literally insane. To give you guys a little bit of a background, 5 juveniles have been arrested and charged after a large group of black teenagers assaulted a Hispanic woman in the streets of Boston for wearing a black hairstyle. Racist much? I'm just saying. Those white supremacists, aren't they just out of control? On April 18th, just before 7 p.m., Boston officers responded to the area of Winter and Washington Street for an in-progress assault and battery situation. According to a police report, a person who called 911 said that there was a group of around 10 to 15 teenagers attacking the 19-year-old. The police report noted that in recent weeks, there have been a number of incidents involving a special group of violent juveniles terrorizing the downtown crossing area, committing acts of vandalism, assault, and civil rights violations. These people are insane. When 2 officers responded to the scene, they said in the report that there was, in fact, around 20 teenagers in the immediate area. Officer James Gorman was approached by the victim, which he noted as being in distress and highly animated, and that a large bump was forming above her right eye. And while talking with the victim, a witness who took footage of the attack approached Gorman with the video and played it. We have that footage here right now. Take a look.
A disturbing attack that unfolded Monday evening before the sun went down. Police say a group of teens, along with a 12-year-old, punched and kicked the female victim, who lay helpless on the sidewalk, crying out in pain.
That was baffling, honestly. It was incredible to see that because I've never seen any type of thing like that in my life ever.
Investigators say the 20-year-old victim says she was targeted because of her hairstyle.
Yes, and some of these reports are clearly reporting accurately that the group reportedly told the victim that she couldn't wear the hairstyle because she wasn't black. Do you see where these dangerous ideologies and this twisted critical race theory and these doctrines of demons have brought the American youth to? I mean, where were you all of 2020? When this CRT, this cultural Marxism, this indoctrination of pinning all kinds of races against each other, that white people are the greatest threat in the United States of America to anybody that's not white, of course that's going to radicalize people. And now we're seeing it not only post-2020 during the race riots, but we're seeing this happen and unfold in the streets as well. I guarantee you these people have been emboldened because they heard on the news that there's a bunch of white people out there that are trying to take their lives and take their jobs and take their existence and stop them from ever succeeding in the United States of America. You begin to embolden people very violently, especially when the defund the police has rolled out, that whole agenda has rolled out, and minorities just get nothing but slaps on the wrist. They could get away with whatever they want, whether they're brown, whether they're black. People have been emboldened because if a white police officer, or any police officer at that, the defund the police agenda has successfully made it very hard for police officers to charge anybody with a crime, especially if they're brown or black. That's just the truth. So what does that do? It emboldens brown and black people to commit crimes, whether they're violent or non-violent, because they know that if anyone tries to prosecute them, accuse them, or arrest them, they could just turn around and say, racist! And then the mainstream media goes alongside with it in lockstep. They take the story, oh, another black or brown person is being victimized, profiled, and targeted, and they don't care about the truth. They don't care about what actually happened. They don't care about the facts or the story. No, 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 no. This is the grift where we find ourselves right now. The same thing happened with Ma'Khia Bryant. Do you guys remember that huge black girl that tried to stab another black person in the neck, and then a white cop shot the massive black girl trying to stab the other black girl in the neck with a knife, and the white cop was somehow the villain in the story, even though he saved a black person's life? Drew, what are you saying? What's the point? The point is, these people don't deal with facts. They don't deal with truth. It doesn't matter what actually happened. It's the agenda that's been installed, and it emboldens people to do this kind of stuff. There needs to be accountability. Just because you're brown, just because you're black, doesn't mean you get a pass, because Black Lives Matter has successfully installed the defund the police agenda in the United States of America. No, 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 no. There needs to be accountability, and there needs to be accountability for all people. White people, brown people, black people. We don't need to be dealt with more leniently. Of course, that's going to embolden people to get violent. These indoctrinations are literally evil. I mean, the poor woman got attacked because she had hair braids, and she cannot have hair braids because she's not black, and they call her white in the process. Does that sound familiar to you? How many times have I told you guys that I myself, as a brown person, let's just use their terminology, I'm a POC, I'm a useless person of color that can't do anything on my own. But all over Twitter, all over social media, anytime I come out and I say stuff like this, what do I get called all the time? A white supremacist, a white neo-Nazi sympathizer. The list goes freaking on. You're a white racist, you're a white that, you're a white this. But this is what these people do. They throw these labels around, and then if they want to, they'll physically assault you, And if the mainstream media decides to, they'll just roll with the story, they'll put it out there, and they'll just let these people get away with it. But thank God that they're not in this case. But the grift never ends. The grift always continues. And this is why we tell people to be careful with what you believe. Because if you're believing in lies, if you're being indoctrinated, this could lead to some pretty dangerous behavior. A lot of this critical race theory, a lot of this cultural Marxism, where people are being convinced that the most villainous people in the United States of America are white people just because they're the majority population in the United States of America. They're the hegemonic power, and they're the ones that are oppressing all the poor black and brown people. Give me a break. I'm not a victim. I don't need your sympathy from you people. But these ideologies and these dangerous teachings, people actually believe this stuff. Why is Antifa so violent? Why is Black Lives Matter willing to use violence in order to prove a political point? Why are these minority communities willing to get extremely violent and accuse someone of being white when they're not? Because these indoctrinations have ruined the minds and poisoned the minds of millions of people, including weak-minded black and brown people. I mean, the lady was Hispanic. This is why it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. If you have wrong think, this agenda has been installed and you will get attacked if they just come out and decide to call you a white person, even if you're literally Hispanic, but you have the wrong hair. These people are the real racists. These people are the ones that need to be held accountable. These people are the ones that are criminals. These people are the ones that are literally committing crimes. These are the ones that are targeting people and they're physically assaulting them because they have the wrong hair. Can you imagine if this was reversed? Can you imagine if this was like a group of white people attacking a black person because, she didn't have her hair not in braids and she had her hair straight like a white girl, and then they turned around and said, "Oh, we're physically assaulting you because you have white hair." Wow, this would be headline news all over CNN, all over MSNBC, but that's not in existence. But that's what they want you to believe is happening. It's actually quite the opposite. But they want you to believe that it's white people running around attacking black and brown people because of the way that they look or their hairstyle or because that they have some kind of difference in their appearance. No, it's actually the other way around. How many of these stories do we have to continue to show you that there's a specific group of people that are targeting and physically assaulting a bunch of other people? And they literally come out and say it while they're doing it. This is because of dangerous ideologies that have poisoned the minds of millions of people. And now they feel emboldened because the defund the police agenda has literally gutted law enforcement and made it hard for anybody to go after anybody. So who do you think gets emboldened in that process? Of course it's criminals. Of course it's people that want to commit crimes or physically assault people, not just loot and steal. We're getting to the point where, hey, if someone just decides to racially commit a hate crime against you, like you got the wrong hair, we're just going to come out and do it. Because there's no charges. They get a slap on the wrist. But this doesn't do any good for the communities. And this is what I've always said. This is what I've always preached, is that when you give a lot of leniency to a community because of the color of their skin or at all, if you don't hold them accountable to their horrific, evil, lawless actions, that community isn't being done right. That's not good for them. That's not healthy for them. It's only going to make things worse, and you're going to embolden people to get more violent and act more like criminals. And I think this whole defund the police agenda has done just that, and there are minority communities that are getting slaps on the wrist. They could just commit hate crimes in broad daylight and get a slap on the wrist. Because if anyone tries to prosecute them, they're a racist. That doesn't do any good for our communities. And I'm speaking as a person of color right now. I don't need you to give me a slap on the wrist. I need you to hold our communities accountable. Black, brown, obviously white as well. These people claim that they want equality. These people claim that they want it equal across the entire board. But no, when it comes to upholding the law, no, you cannot uphold the law against a black or a brown person because that's racist and that's just oppression. No, that's a cop-out. That's people not wanting to be held accountable. So we need to hold our communities accountable, whether black, whether brown, whether the list goes on, white, okay? It doesn't matter. It's ridiculous that we have to literally cite the color of people in order to get a point across, because this is where these people have brought us to. We need accountability. If we don't have it, it only ruins our communities, whether white, black, or brown, and we need it now. Stop being lenient with people that are committing crimes, especially hate crimes, because of the way someone looks. Oh, but these are the people that want equality, and you should just be accepting to how anyone looks or how they sound. No, they're the losers. My name is Drew Hernandez. These are the Front Lines. TPUSA Live starts right now.
Preach to him, Drew. Those are the real losers. You gotta love Drew Hernandez, right? Just tells it like it is every single day. But happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to TPUSA HQ in Phoenix, Arizona. This is what we're covering today on TPUSA Live. Right there. First, a great white attacks a boat. Mike Tyson attacks a fellow passenger on a flight. And so much more craziness in the daily briefing. Next, a Utah University is teaching a class on porn. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the world just keeps getting crazier. My goodness, we're gonna break all that down. Then Mayor Lori Lightfoot from Chicago is getting grilled about the crime wave spike in her city. And finally, we'll celebrate Earth Day. That's why I got this green on, trying to look nice for Earth Day. And how conservatives are the best stewards of God's green earth, followed by some of our female contributors getting you hyped for the Young Women's Leadership Summit. And one last thing. All right, let's party. TPUSA Live from HQ starts right now.
Authentic, unfiltered, grassroots content and conversation every weekday. Live from Phoenix, Arizona at the Turning Point USA headquarters, this is TPUSA Live.
We're here at TPUSA HQ. John and the ladies, baby. Let's go. Great way to finish off the week. Let's go. What's new? We got Isabel Brown, Paige, Roux, Lily Standley, and of course, I'm Jon Root, representing the men. You might not be a biologist out there, but you should probably take notice of that. I know my hair is getting longer, but
it is growing out a lot.
Yeah.
Are you going for it?
That's
I like it. Man bun.
Okay,
man bun for John.
Like mulleting.
I'm not gonna mull it.
Man bun. Man bun.
I'll tell you this, everybody watching, listening, whatever it may be, if you say that I should get a man bun, I'm no longer friends with you.
Just try it.
I
think it's going to take an eternity to get there. So that's just like
true.
the energy. But you know, you can grow it all out and go a little bit. By the time we're towards the fall,
you can get a man
you'll
extension.
Have a nice beard
you can get one of those bun extensions.
I'm gonna cut this one off. Thanks for being here, ladies. This will be your last segment. I'm gonna do the rest of the show by myself. No, but we have some great news, and it's not that I'm gonna get a man bun or grow out a mullet. It's Governor DeSantis is stripped Disney World of their special governing powers. So that is great news. So that was just about 45 minutes ago or so.
Yeah, really recent. I saw a bunch of posts already from the Screaming Left. Love it on Twitter. You probably haven't seen them, John, since you're still in Twitter jail. RIP. And TikTok. You got your account deleted on TikTok this week, too.
Man.
On a roll. We love it. I've
Real
been there.
jail is going to be next, I guess.
The gulags are coming. Anyway, we've seen a lot of screaming, crying babies about this whole Disney situation, and they're saying, you know how easy it would be for Disney to move to a new state? I'm like, it's 25,000 acres and all of the rides and all of the everything?
They would
sure.
never.
Okay, honey. It'd be really easy for it to move.
I don't understand. I also like that the stocks are going down.
Yeah.
By a lot, yeah.
Vote by your dollars. That's all.
And it's not just Disney. Netflix stocks are absolutely in the tank.
Yep.
Obviously, CNN Plus is done after a month. This whole woke
It's
world
They
is
don't
crashing
realize,
and burning.
The other day, Senator Warren was talking about how she's really nervous about the upcoming situation and how she thinks that the left is going to get a slap in the face. And she was saying, in order for us to be successful, she did. She said, in order for us to be successful, we need to push harder and get more done. So she's right about how America, they're going to give a rude awakening to the left here pretty soon. But she's wrong about needing to do more. She's not realizing that all of these things are actually increasingly less popular with middle America, left America, and in order to rally her base and maintain it, they need to go back to like traditional left values. And that's where Disney's wrong. They're not going to move. That's going to ever. They need to just cut their losses and read the room, understand their audience better in order to maybe possibly save face at this point.
Especially when you're targeting children.
Yeah.
Like there's one issue with like the far left and how they're doing that on the adult side, but the targeting the children, that's why stocks are going down in Netflix and CNN and Disney. Like, don't mess with the kids. I'm proud
of that. The last thing on this one is I know Chris Wallace asked for the time being, Press Secretary Jen Psaki, who's going to be moving over to MSNBC. It's just like, well, for me as a parent, it just doesn't seem like it's a good idea to be pushing this kind of stuff in the classroom and in movies. She's like, well, what happens when there's a kid in the classroom? It's like, I got 2 moms. Like, what does that mean? And it's
we
just
do
like,
the same thing we've always done, where we just accept and acknowledge and move on and not prioritize it.
Right.
And if you have a question, probably go talk to your parents.
Yeah.
That's the job. All right. So there was a great white shark attack. Like, we're really getting into some crazy stuff in the daily briefing here. But this is a crazy viral video, and guess what? It's from Down Under.
Let's see.
It's crazy. So this YouTube video was shared by 9 News Australia. Check it out. This is insane.
A leisurely day on the water for the Tuckfield family turns into terror. A scene straight out of Jaws.
Whoa. Watch out. Oh my God.
This great white launching at the 7-metre boat several times.
Ah! He's hit the motor. Yeah, he's trying to hit the motor.
And circling them for an hour.
He come back for the motor again. Just like.
So no one was hurt.
No.
I would still. So I'm terrified.
Did you want to see somebody hurt?
No, I'm just like, God. That's what I was gonna watch. I was so nervous. I was like, I gotta close my eyes. I don't like scary movies.
Yeah, same.
I don't like Jaws, and a lot of people at HQ know this. Flying is one of my biggest fears, but water,
Really?
open water. I feel like I'm a very courageous person. I will jump into new things. If you get me on a plane over water, you will see me hyperventilating into a bag.
wait.
So ocean, I'll look at it from afar. It's great.
So no trips
Really?
to Hawaii and Paige's.
What about,
No.
are you like one of those people with the
Damn.
maps though, like where you can't look at maps of bodies of water without hyperventilating? Like we have friends who
I
they're
don't
like
even know.
maps.
That's a little.
No, maps
not
like
one of
scare
those.
them,
That
like
extreme.
zooming, like, and if a map zooms out too quickly, they get like super lightheaded and sick and stuff. Like,
No,
it's-
but the fact that if I'm in a large body of and I don't know what's underneath me, and we don't know what's. I mean,
That's
it just
true.
keeps going.
And actually, we know more about outer space than we do about the ocean. So, mind
That's
blowing,
true.
crazy,
Like,
very cool.
Well, supposedly, I don't think we know much about either of them.
true, but still, that's
But
great.
yeah, that stuff.
Really? I
that
had
stuff-
no idea. I
my
did
gosh.
not know that about you.
Yeah, I have a respect for it, but we'll go to the beach. I'll maybe dabble my toes in. Like we go to the lake all the time. I can do the lake. Like I don't allow it to stop me.
You've never
but
like body surfed or
You've
anything
never
like
just like
that?
sat there in the ocean as the
Never.
tide brings you back in. That was the best
Never
thing.
would I,
Oh, it's
because I
amazing.
also
love water.
feel like the ocean is just very unpredictable. It is the alpha, and I respect it, and it could swallow me up, and no one will remember me. Like, it's just, bye, swallow, bye-bye.
Paige, good night.
We're going into deepest, darkest fears. But I'll be honest, if I was on that boat, I'd be stoked.
I would too.
I'd
I
be
think
like,
that'd be
"That's
so
so
cool.
cool."
My sister and I have always wanted to go shark cage diving, largely in South Africa, because that's like the best place to go with great white
My
sharks.
heart is
I think that would be so awesome. They're not going to get you. You're
Send-
more likely to die from a car accident.
send me
than you are
Besides
pictures.
that
from a
one video
shark
of the
attack.
shark like breaking into the cage. Yeah, I mean that's a real thing. It happens
It
very
happens.
occasionally. I think that's
If
cool.
that's how I go out,
Yeah.
I will be remembered. We'll put it
Like,
that
if
way.
I'm
The ocean
flying-
You'll be
won't
remembered.
swallow me up. Yeah.
Yes, if I'm flying, I would literally rather crash and burn than when people are like, well, when you fly over water, you're more likely to live. Nope, I'm not castaway, not happening.
Wow.
We'll come get you in like a few hours.
Castaway was like 3 years.
You probably have a better chance to catch COVID and die of COVID than you do to die on an
Probably,
airplane.
yeah.
And it's already pretty minuscule to catch COVID and die of that, so I think you'll be safe. We're gonna do whatever we can to get you out
Thank
of
you,
that.
guys.
Get
I
you out of
appreciate
that.
it.
I vow to get you to go to Hawaii once in your life.
Yes.
No, because don't you have to like be tested and all this?
Not
nonsense?
anymore.
Not anymore.
All right, this other one too. So Mike Tyson got in a little scuffle with a passenger, and a passenger that looked like he was just straight out of a fraternity. This kid just, his buddy is, we're about to show you this, filming it. He brings up like, oh, is he on shrooms or something like that? He looks like he's absolutely bombed.
Really?
And he's in a different dimension. And then he decides to poke the bear. Mike Tyson, who's had 50 wins in his professional career, you know how many of those have been knockouts, Lily?
Probably the majority.
44.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
wouldn't mess with him. Check out this video.
Lethal weapons.
drawing of a frog.
Yes. Okay, I want to know what led to that happening, because mostly, I mean, I don't know, it probably was somewhat justified. It looked like he got beat pretty good, which is probably unnecessary, but I wonder what he did to piss off Mike Tyson.
So, I mean, it's a longer video that you guys can find online, and everybody watching, find it online, and then what happened was it seemed like there was a bottle thrown. There was already just like poking and prodding at him, where it's like, look at this video too. It's in the nice part of the airplane.
Yeah.
This isn't in coach or something like that. Yeah. This is where you kind of have like first class.
Isn't it the lay down seat?
It looked pretty much
He
like the lay down seat.
definitely looked like he was on drugs, though, that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, definitely was just screwing around.
Yeah, and then, so what happens now, it's, they ended up landing in Florida, so it was from SFO, San Francisco International Airport, out to Florida, and then he pressed some charges against Tyson, but it's just like, that's not going to hold up.
Yeah.
At all.
Wild.
Don't mess with that. And then there's the last story we got here for the daily briefing is there's been a suspect named in the missing toddler case after 15 years. So I don't know if you guys have heard this. So Madeleine McCann, the background of that, she went missing from her hotel. So her family 15 years ago went out to vacation in Portugal. And at that time, they had all the kids stay in like a specific cabin, specific apartment, and they were checking in on the kiddos every once in a while, pretty much every 15 minutes. And then the next time they went, seemed like there was an open window.
Terrible.
Child was gone.
One of them, right?
One of the children was gone. So now we're finding out we're getting up to the 15th anniversary of that. So May 3rd would be the 15th anniversary. And the reason I say that is there's a statute of limitations for Portugal. So a lot of people are trying to wonder, like, okay, there was a person of interest, and then now we actually have a suspect, and the clock is ticking. Is that the reason something's finally being done here? Why is it taking so long? And so that statute of limitations is 15 years, and that's for a prison sentence 10 years or more. And we don't know anything about if Madeleine is still alive. Her parents say that they hope that she's alive, and there's a tweet there. So Christian Bruckner, hopefully I'm saying that one right, has been officially named as a suspect in Madeleine McCann's disappearance for the first time by Portuguese authorities.
Man, it'll be really terrible if he is found guilty, and then these whole past 15 years, he's been able to do more worse things to other people. We don't know. Like, it's very interesting that it's taken 15 years to name a suspect officially.
I couldn't imagine, even from the parents' perspective. Like, I've listened to, like, I think a crime junkie on this, and it's so sad. Of just not having the closure for 15 years, and maybe actions not being taken until now because the clock is ticking. Now people
the clock is always ticking too when these kids go missing. You know, they say after the first 24 hours, it's almost impossible to find your child. So can you imagine having to hold on to this for 15
in a different
years?
Country?
Yeah, and dealing with all of the legal headaches of that. I mean, that's probably why it's taken so long, which is just awful. It breaks my heart.
This is why it's so important to not defund the police and rather fund them and fund these entities that are able to do these things. Because I watched a video the other night of somebody calling 911, and it was just ringing, ringing and ringing and ringing. And you finally he got a hold of an animated service. It was a car crash. I mean, like, this is just unacceptable. I mean, we're hurting real people. So, I mean, it's just terrible. People need to understand their social movements have real consequences, and this is just terrible. And what's funny is there's hundreds of thousands of stories like this.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is just one of the many, and it's unacceptable.
And so there's been British authorities, German authorities, Portuguese, and other European authorities that have been involved in this case for over 15 years. And nothing's happened until now. And then the final thing I'll say is Bruckner, he is a bad dude.
Really?
A bad individual that's serving prison time right now. So this isn't just some rando off the street. This is someone that's actually serving prison time for raping a 72-year-old woman at the same Portuguese resort where McCann went. And
he was a person of interest for a long time, they said.
But he wasn't an official suspect until now.
Well, at least he's been in prison. That's a little bit encouraging. At least he hasn't been able to run around the streets. But who knows how long that's been for? You know, that could have just been 2 weeks ago, you know? It's just terrible.
That's awful.
All right, after this quick little thing telling you about who you can look forward to seeing on live next week, we're going to talk about a porn class that's being offered at a Utah university.
Good.
None of this stuff should really shock you anymore, people.
What a heavy Friday.
Whoa, boy, light stuff before you head on to the weekend. But we got some light stuff with Jon Crist coming up in Phoenix this next week. Jon Crist is going to be joining us on TPUSA Live on April 25th to crack some jokes and I'm sure provide some pretty off-the-wall commentary. If you want more Jon Crist, He'll be on his Fresh Cuts comedy tour, at the Orpheum Theater in Phoenix on April 24th. You can buy tickets now at johnchriscomedy.com. There are limited tickets available, and I think some of us on the couch already got some, so be sure to get those before they sell
I'm so
out.
jazzed. I love Jon Chris.
Same. Yeah.
I've never seen him.
He's hilarious.
So funny.
But I love me some good comedy.
Oh yeah.
Well, what's funny is I
Make
was
me
the
laugh.
one. I was the reason that he ended up at America Fest.
Really?
Yeah. So when I'm going through and looking for who I want to invite as a special guest, I have these lists of people. I didn't know anything about Jon, and so I obviously just treat him like any other person. And it was so funny because he's the one person walking through VIP that everyone's like freaking out over. And so it's just cool to see how that relationship has grown. And I'm glad he'll be here, and we're buddies, and I'm excited to see him. And it's gonna be a good time. Yeah.
It was funny when I met him for the first time too.
Yeah, it's probably a little awkward for you, Jon, because weren't you on with Alex to interview him for live the first time you met?
That's hilarious.
If you guys have not seen that, that's something I feel like I have to post myself. But right before we had an interview, we had a bunch of exclusive interviews that I know all you guys helped out with at America Fest. I found out that Alex and Jon Chris went on a few dates like years ago. So I'm like, all right. Well, I guess I get to third wheel this situation. This is going to be fun. But at America Fest, I remember like meeting Jon, and it's like we just became best friends because he's got all these people surrounding him. And I'm like, what's up, man? And I'm like, feel like just hang out. He's like, this is insane.
Yeah, he had no idea what he was getting himself into. Like he kept telling me, he just came because he knew a little bit about Turning Point, and he had connected with Charlie on something or said something in his DMs about, oh, this is so cool what you're doing. And he was mind blown. And he's like, he told me, he's like, I didn't know. He's like, I knew conservatives were real. I didn't know they were like real. Like I didn't know that they like hung out and did things together. And that's another,
we're fun.
Event
okay.
plug. That's why our events are freaking sick, because you realize that we are real and we do things and we're freaking cool. But anyways, love Jon, great guy, very excited.
Something that we don't love is the over-sexualization of elementary school kids, kindergartners, and the kind of classes that we're seeing on college campuses now. So this one, oh boy. So private liberal arts college in Utah, Westminster College, is offering an entire class on porn. Get signed up because it happens in 2022 and 2023.
Porn 3000.
Yeah.
Nice.
You get 2 credits. And
that's two credits, not even just one.
So this is like an upper level course, and what I love about it in the description of the class is they literally say hardcore pornography is as American as apple pie and more popular than Sunday Night Football.
This has to be a joke.
Sad reality, it is more popular than Sunday Night Football.
The
vast majority of Gen Zers watch porn every single day. Like this is
that
normal.
Has to be a joke.
No, this is a real class.
Someone tapped into the school curriculum and added this class.
Nope, this is real.
A joke.
I have no doubt in my mind this is real because
100%.
This is so normal. And I think it's important that we're all freaking out to this, and the whole internet has erupted being like, this is a little weird, but it's totally in recognizance of what's culturally normal right now because porn is arguably one of the biggest industries in the United States,
sure.
which is so heartbreaking.
But it's not up to the schools to educate students on that.
You'd think.
You would
think, but we're in 2022.
But I think the big part about this, if we could throw that back up on the screen, another part of this that people are definitely need to touch on is the second sentence. Our approach to this billion-dollar industry is as both a cultural phenomenon that reflects and reinforces sexual inequities, but holds the potential to challenge sexual and gender norms, and as an art form that requires serious contemplation. That is not an art form.
We will watch pornographic films together and discuss the sexualization of race, class, and gender as an experimental. Oh, look at this. Prerequisites, none.
So they're watching in class to talk about race, gender, and class. So are you going to show up on Monday and watch black porn, on Wednesdays gay porn, and on Fridays rich people porn? I mean, this is weird, right? This is like
it's just
really
evil.
bizarre.
It's
privilege
completely
porn.
perverted. I mean, listen, the whole point of higher education is to explore what's good, true, and beautiful. And this is none of those things. It's actually quite the opposite. So
It's dark.
I think it's just a testament to where we're at in society, what our culture is looking for. And you know what? Unfortunately, I bet you every seat in that class is going to be taken.
Sadly,
and then
I
some.
think you're right.
And I think they're going to open up more like that because they're going to see a demand for it, because kids are realizing that they're able to do these kinds of things now and that they're valid in those desires and wanting to, explore that type of education. And I think it's terrible. They should really talk about what porn does to people's minds.
I was just going to say that. Yep.
What how it taints your view on relationship, and also, you know, this sexual industry and how it completely targets and abuses women, and the sex
kids,
trafficking
underage
of
kids.
yes. You know what else is crazy? I just watched this clip from one of those big organizations on Instagram that speaks out about this stuff, and there was a professor on Zoom talking about how, you know, sex with a 12-year-old, if they're consenting, he doesn't see a problem with that, and he went so far to say sex with a 1-year-old. Who?
No.
Yeah, no, he did. I'll send you the video. I was mortified. He's like, I don't understand how you can say that that is wrong. And yes, on video as a professor. So this is where we're at, everybody.
Because we were covering that stuff the other day about how they try to put the blame on the victim so much too. I actually just watched the Hillsong documentary too. So like definitely something you guys got to check out. Really sad stuff that goes on, but they're constantly trying to put this on the victims, like, well, why did you bring this up like 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago?
That's part of the left, though. They lack entirely personal responsibility. It's a fundamental difference. They can't own up to their actions. They cannot be the problem. They're only the solution, and it's always you and not their own actions.
And he tries to say in that video about, like, you know, well, if this 12-year-old consents, it's like they don't know what they're doing. You as an adult should be a leader.
1 year old, you can't even speak words.
So. A 1-year-old, and you went into this whole situation. Oh, you should watch it, because the rest of it is actually mortifying. And he was talking about a lot of things with it, and it is just. I don't understand how these people are allowed to exist. And was it you, or who was talking about the comedian that was talking about sex trafficking?
Oh, I think Conlon was talking about that the other day. Somebody was talking about it. But you're right.
I think Allison Furno was talking about
Allison Furno, watching a comedy bit of someone talking about how we should just continue sex trafficking because she likes to watch porn. So like they can acknowledge that there is a link between sex trafficking and porn.
Well, that's the thing. And I would understand, I think, if a university for a film class was offering a course on pornography about the danger of not providing ethics in the film industry, about the problems with your brain chemistry if you become addicted to porn, which, by the way, is more addicting than opioids. Many doctors are starting to acknowledge right now about how that impacts your sexual function and your ability to have sexual intimacy with your partner, and so many other things. It's linked to divorce, it's linked to hookup culture, everything. That I would understand. I think that would actually be a really interesting course. I would take that. Sitting there watching porn with my like 70-year-old professor to talk about race and gender norms? No, thank you. I do not think that is helpful.
I don't understand. I mean, whatever happened to, you know, being like explicit in public? You know how that's supposedly used to be a crime, where you can't just walk around naked? How are we able to show pornography to maybe minors? I mean, those kids, I was a 17-year-old freshman in college. How is this
Fair point.
You know, like that's incredibly bizarre. And who are these freaky ass teachers that are teaching this stuff? I mean, that's bizarre. Like that's, you had everything, you had all the curriculum, everything under the sun, and you chose to teach a class on porn.
$50 right now. This is going to be an art elective in high school within the next 5 years.
Ooh.
I guarantee you.
I'm thinking the porn industry is going to get involved, offer scholarships.
Yep.
It's going to be a whole avenue.
A career fair maybe for students in this class.
Well, for sure, because it's empowering for women these days too. Oh my God,
this will be a conversation about high school in 5 years, because this is the exact same trend we see with every other crazy thing that happens on college campuses.
It trickles.
We like to say at Turning Point all the time, what happens on campus never stays on campus. It graduates with students into the job market and the halls of Congress and corporate boardrooms. But we also need to remember that this goes down into the rest of the education system, because who are we educating on college campuses? The next generation of teachers. So they take their experience on campus and then they inject it into kindergarten and first grade and second grade and all the way through high school,
so sad.
which is why you're starting to see conversations about sex to begin with happening with 5-year-olds.
Well, nothing is precious anymore. Nothing is sacred. There's nothing under the sun that the left values more than pleasure. And unfortunately, you know, being Christians and being conservatives, we understand that there's things in life that are sacred and beautiful and should be preserved. We don't need to blast them all over for everybody to see. And the left just ruins that. They ruin everything.
Well, if they care about pleasure, they shouldn't care about porn, because you ruin your ability to function sexually or have actual intimacy with someone.
But that requires critical thinking skills, which we know they don't have. So it's just ridiculous.
Well, speaking on behalf of the men, I know this affects men more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And then all this whole normalization of sexualization is going to hurt men the most. And we're talking about in society, we need strong men. And if you talk about ruining relationships, you talk about these intimacy problems, you talk about relationships and building up the next generation, it's only going to make men weaker. It's only going to make men feel like that person with long hairs, boob, and a woohoo is just some sort of item that you can sexualize. Just something that you can use, something you can gawk at, and it's just gonna ruin you. And you're gonna start finding these bits and pieces of dopamine, like you brought up, bits and pieces of value, and it's not going to last. And there's going to be an emptiness, and there's going to be an anxiety, and there's going to be a weakness in our society. If we keep letting this go, we're screwed.
Can I just say really quick, because I think it's important for those watching, it is really normal right now for people to be struggling with porn addictions, no matter how old you are, no matter what religion you practice, no matter what your political affiliation is. If you're struggling with this, you are not alone, and there's a lot of other people walking through this right alongside you. I just did a really interesting interview for my podcast with Josh Broom. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about who he is, but he was actually the #1 male porn actor in the industry several years ago. He won basically their equivalent of an Oscar. And he grew up in a Christian household. He grew up in the American South, eventually was very corrupted when he moved to Hollywood to pursue acting and got sucked into the porn industry. But in the midst of all of that, right after he won that award, he totally hit a wall and said, you know what, this is not at all who I want to be, and this is destroying me. I can't get up every day without wanting to kill myself. I want to be done. So he quit and moved across the country, and now, several years later, he's a pastor, and he has like devoted his entire life to Jesus, to telling other people the truth of the gospel, and getting people out of the porn industry, whether they're working in it or watching it every day. So there is redemption for you if you are struggling with this. You are not alone. You do not have to hide this in darkness anymore. There's a lot of great resources out there. Josh is a great example of one.
It's great as well. And another thing too I want to touch on is there's transgender people that are regretting their decision. We talk about other things that are being pushed on kids, and you're making these. Yeah, exactly. You're having these kids make these adult decisions and decisions that you can't come back from at all, and they're regretting it. This whole reassignment surgery stuff that we're seeing from the Biden administration, we aren't just conservatives just conjuring up some crazy stuff. This is coming from the top down, people. And then so this report published Monday by the New York Post was arguing that transgender teens are speaking out against gender affirming care and this reassignment, and that they're not just coming out against this, they're being silenced and they're going unheard. There's another side of this where it's like you are having the adults talk to you about like how minor attracted persons should be accepted in society. Just let us teach what we want to teach. We can be parents ourselves in the classroom. Parents don't need to hear about what we're talking about. And they're starting to just take this authority figure without even listening to the kids or the group that this affects.
No, because it's actually an entire hyper-narcissistic movement, and I think that's part of it. Like we see that with the teachers who just have to tell their kindergartners that they're transgender or gay or whatever, and these people who think so, I honestly think it's just a case of severe narcissism. When you think that you know yourself better than the God who created you in order to change everything about your identity and your chemical wiring, that's a narcissistic problem, and that is why we're seeing this huge influx of, I can't imagine, there's gotta be a way to put like an age limit or requirement for these children to get these surgeries. And now,
adulthood. I mean, I don't think that's hard.
No, I know, right? And in California now they're proposing legislation about, parents can't actually have access to their child's medical reports and stuff as young as 5 years old. So that's where we're at. And
I think that's already a thing if they're like 12 or older.
No,
if you go to public school in California, you can go to the school nurse and be prescribed testosterone and your parents won't know.
Yeah, so unless it is a targeted agenda to corrupt and mutilate children, there's no other explanation for this. Because you still need a parent's signature to be under 18 to get a tattoo on the outside of your body that really largely won't affect the well-being of your life, minus, an airline job. But in order to chemically castrate yourself and cut your boobs off and cut whatever you want off of yourself, you can be any age, taxpayer funded, and it's deeply encouraged. And if a doctor tries to propose, mental help, they get fired and silenced over this stuff. So unless, if I was trying to just corrupt an entire subcategory of humans, what would I be doing differently? It's got to be a targeted, evil, demonic movement. There's no other explanation for it.
Yeah, I say this a lot. I often have spent time thinking about this, wondering why kids? Because isn't it enough to just go after people's gender when they're teenagers or adults? Like, why are we talking about this with kindergartners at this point? What's the why behind that? And I think about this through the lens of the fact that the left is really, really good at the long game. They will plant the seeds right now for things that will come to fruition 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line because they know that it's ultimately going to help their movement. Whereas conservatives are often in the defensive position. We're often very reactionary to what's happening in culture, so we feel the need to act then. The left can think decades in advance. And so I think, why are they doing this to 5-year-olds? I think it's because if you can go after the most innate part of someone's identity when they are 3, 4, 5 years old, the thing that shapes everything about their personality, how they respond to stress, what their outlook on life is, what they're going to be passionate about, who they're sexually attracted to at the earliest age possible, you can change everything about their identity.
100%. Your core fundamental values in life are decided by age 9. So if you by 9, you know about like human nature, and what you believe to be true about humanity is solid by age 9. That's why like your formative years are so important, and they say, you know, stay away from drugs and alcohol and all this stuff while your brain is still forming. Men's brains don't fully form until they're 28 or something like that, and women is like 26. So you're talking about children.
Takes a little longer for a few people.
Yeah. Accurate. It's okay. Your hair helps. So, I mean, and sexuality in particular is something that's so fundamental to who we are. I mean, like if I can describe nothing else about myself, I know that I am a woman. I mean, that's like the most basic, besides like skin color and super outward characteristics, that's the one thing you do know to be true. And I think we need to have compassion and room for the people who genuinely struggle with that, but this targeted attack towards children and telling them like, yeah, no, you're actually wrong, you're supposed to be something else, is just evil. And
Paige,
it's hurting a lot of people.
What you think.
Y'all, John and I are like, no, I think it's disgusting, and I think it worries me for even having children, which sucks. But they're also targeting, I mean, if you think about it, you're right, they're completely calculated. They have these goals, and what we don't talk about is, yes, conservatives are reactionary, and we have to get ahead of that, but also they're completely targeting us, and it makes us, I mean, our values is to have a family, you know, like procreate, have large families, and teach our values. Mm-hmm. And I mean, for me, it's like, it makes me nervous to have a child now, because I don't want them to go down that path. So now they're targeting us and our family values.
And then values based on truth too. That's why I feel like this stems from the whole like my truth movement. This like, oh, I can be whoever I want to be. I can identify as whatever, and it's just my feeling, and you got to accept that. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking about building out a family and building out relationships based on truth, like this is where it comes from. Maybe it's scientifically, your foundation in your faith, whatever it may be. If you're trying to say that now science is just whatever you want it to be as well. Mm-hmm. So like everything is just your truth.
Subjective.
That's it. It's totally subjective, and I feel like that's where it stems from, and we need to get into the truth of the matter. That's why I've said this many times before, there's an effectiveness behind facts don't care about your feelings, but there are so many feelings involved in everything now in society that you're gonna have to figure out how to empathize even just a little bit and have a tiny bit of grace for people that are going through gender dysphoria or decide to get into porn at way too young age. Maybe that's been accepted in their family or their friend group or whatever it may be. You gotta meet people where they're at and just keep instilling the truth in. That's the best way to love people. You can't just keep hammering home and beating them down with facts. It doesn't work, people. Mm-hmm. You probably have friends like that, where it's just like you try to tell people about guns, like here's why I support the Second Amendment so much and your individual rights. You can hit home so much about the facts, but you need to meet them there. Maybe they've gone through like some sort of gun violence before, or they've dealt with guns in some way.
They come from different backgrounds. Yeah. Call me optimistic, but I really don't think this is going to work. I mean, obviously, even with the daily briefing that we were talking about with CNN Plus and Disney and things like that, like it reminds me of, honestly, of myself. I'm such a stubborn person, and I mean, my mom, if you're watching this, hi, but she. Growing up, she goes, if I recommended something to you or if I told you to do something, you wouldn't do it. Yep. It had to be your idea, or the more I told you to do something and why you needed to do it, the more you didn't want to do it. So I think it's short-lived, and I think we're already kind of seeing this turn of people being like, or people being reassigned and then obviously regretting it. Pretty short in the future too, maybe 5 years later. Literally, they're already regretting it, and they're already seeing that they're being silenced. Like this is going to be a turn. It will not work. I don't care how calculated they are. I don't care if it's 10 years or 20 years. It will not work, because true values stay true forever.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, yeah, it won't work in the way that it's not going to help people, but I think it's going to work for the left, because people are committing suicide left and right after transitioning, and I think that's ultimately what they want, is a super depressed, unhealthy generation. So I hope you're right, and I hope we come back to like the true value of humanity that we're
a generation that's dependent on the government, because I guarantee that's where this is going to. Like, we're going to need to have these new taxes. We're going to need to have this new legislation that takes care of these people, and it's going to come out of your pocket, and it's already hurt so many people psychologically. We're going to go into Patriot Mobile, nice little ad from them. We're going to come back, talk to Paige Roux, the 2A gal, about what's going on in Chicago.
Saddle.
Yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
Abortion, I salute you! Women, if you need an abortion, get one! And you said police defund!
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to the next generation. Activate freedom. Join Patriot Mobile.
That's such a badass commercial.
I know, I like the lightsaber.
I want Patriot Mobile. I want to be in the next one.
I love the TV, like, we're going to take your AR-15.
Click.
No, you ain't.
No.
No, we're definitely talking about 2A. We got Paige Roux here, Lily Standley, Isabel Brown. I'm Jon Root. So, crime surge in Chicago. Shocking, right? Just a lot of stuff we talk about here you shouldn't be shocked about. But some of those numbers are shootings are up 43% since 2021. Chicago is not only the windy city, it's a very unsafe city and the murder capital of the world, it seems like. And then when you have Mayor Lori Lightfoot have to explain it, obviously she's going to go on defensive mode. When she was asked about that.
What is she wearing?
I ask myself that question on a daily basis, to be honest with you. The superhero we all need. Not all heroes.
She is terrifying looking. I mean, objectively speaking,
like a goblin.
I don't understand how these people make it into public office.
That's a great point.
But you got to check out this video when she was getting hammered for that crime surge and how this is an incredibly unsafe city. Check it out.
Real Chicagoans are asking me, how could you possibly even consider running for re-election as mayor of the city of Chicago after all the harm you've caused?
Well, I disagree with you fundamentally, and I don't think I need to address any and dignify your comments 1 second further. Next question.
Don't need to dignify those comments at all. It's a deflection technique again. It's like, no, you need to answer for this. Like,
She couldn't answer it. She couldn't answer it. It's disgusting. Sorry, I'm just going to go off now.
Please do.
Here we are. It is literally proven that guns save lives. And what does not get put on mainstream media, everyone talks about, and I say this, I go to schools every week to speak about this, because mainstream media, the administration has an agenda. Right? It's ban ghost guns, make universal background checks, make gun dealers liable. They have an agenda, and when they need to push that agenda, all of a sudden there's a shooting or a crime with a firearm. Isn't that ironic? And then they push it because they want to make you emotional. But doing my research, it is so manipulative. And there are, I mean, just like Chicago, there are a lot of anti-gun cities, like New York. I mean, the subway incident, Sacramento, right?
Yeah.
There was a shooting in Sacramento. And now, I mean, Chicago being the most dangerous city in the world. Can you see the trend here? Why isn't Arizona, why isn't even Georgia or Florida, Texas, why aren't those states being brought up? So there's an agenda, but what mainstream media does not want you to know is that actually in 2019, and this is according to the Department of Justice, that crime rose, but firearm or violence involving a firearm actually decreased by 27%.
Wow.
Oh my
and
gosh.
that was also during a time when it was the massive surge. More guns were being sold at that time.
Yep.
So where's that trend being talked about? Additionally, there's 40,000, in 2019, there was under 40,000 gun-related deaths, and that also included suicides, okay? Every year, 60,000 to 2.5 million lives are saved because of firearms. Why is that not being talked about? It gives me goosebumps. I teach students every single day. They come in, I don't care what the race is or the gender or the age, but they come in and they say, I need to arm myself, and I'm happy to. Because just like you said, we're defunding the police, You're gonna call and you're just gonna get a ring and a ring. You are your absolute first responder, and I promise other states are standing up to this because constitutional carry states, there are now 25 of them, so we are half and half, and that basically means that you don't need permission from the government, you don't need a specific permit. It is your constitutional right to carry a firearm and conceal a firearm. Most of the time it's if you're 21 and over, but you are constitutional, it's your right to carry a firearm and conceal a firearm on your body as a U.S. citizen. There are 25 states now, 5 were added last year, 4, Georgia is the newest one that was added a few weeks ago, 4 have been added this year, and it's only April. So other states are picking up on it, they're seeing the trend, but mainstream media does not want to tell you that. Chicago will fail, they need to get Lightfoot out and bring someone in that will help arm citizens to protect themselves and stop putting all of the power in these criminals' hands.
And then right now, too, we're talking about policing. Police shootings have gone up 43% since last year as well. So not only as a citizen are you in danger, but as a police officer, you're in danger as well. And then we're hearing reports that there's volunteers that are going out and they're trying to protect this CTA red line. They're patrolling the streets themselves.
Which is so scary because what training do they have? How confident are they? And they're literally willing to put their lives in danger against these gangs and career criminals. You're willing to put your life on the line to protect your city. That is what you're doing to your citizens. That's disgusting.
The left needs to have a little bit more critical thinking skills and realize that criminals, I'm sure as you understand, don't follow the laws. Like these people that are committing these crimes aren't like good gun citizen like owners. Most of the guns are obtained illegally, and they weren't supposed to have them in the first place, so they have warrants out and et cetera. So they're not understanding. It's a targeted campaign against constitutional gun owners.
I think it's fascinating that 25 states exactly have constitutional carry, where the other 25 are probably going to put up one hell of a fight to make sure constitutional carry is never going to come to their state. What an interesting commentary on what we've been talking about for the last 6 months or so, that we really are living in 2 different Americas right now. Like the reality of conservatives and the reality of leftists in America are 2 fundamentally different realities when you wake up every day. And my heart breaks for these people living in Chicago and New York and Portland and Los Angeles and Sacramento and Denver. I mean, I grew up in the Denver area. Seeing what is happening to put citizens' lives at risk at the altar of progressivism every single day makes my stomach turn. I think it is so disgusting, and I just pray every day that Americans who live in these places are able to wake up and realize that their elected officials do not have good intentions.
No.
They're not trying to protect your life. They're trying to sacrifice your life to make it a more chaotic and unstable
Chaos
society
is the point.
so that they can have more political power at the end of the day.
Final thing from you, Paige, is obviously you're the place to go to. Reloaded, coming out with a new season very
I'm so
soon.
excited for season 2. It's going to be so fun.
But something when you bring up constitutional carry, what's the difference between concealed carry, constitutional carry? Because there's a lot of these words that get thrown out there that people just don't know about. So what's the difference?
Like ghost guns. I mean, I can go on forever. They won't let me. But so constitutional carry is basically if you aren't a constitutional carry state, you have to, depending on what state, you have to get a permit to conceal a firearm. Some states are more strict. You have to have multiple permits. You have to have a certain amount of training. But you have to obtain a permit, receive a background check to be able to conceal carry. Now, other states have laws of what concealed carry is. It's dependent on your state. Constitutional carry means that you don't need that permit. You don't need to go through the government and pay that fee and go through this 4 or 8 hour class, depending on what state you're in. It is your constitutional right to carry a firearm or conceal a firearm. Now, concealing, you can open carry, which is if the gun is showing. Concealing is if you put a shirt over, have it in your purse, something like that. That is your constitutional right. 25 states are constitutional carry now.
Right to bear arms, baby. Let's go. That's Paige Root. Seriously, go to her for anything, too. I know I always do. I can't wait to go out there, do a little bit of shooting myself. I got my brother and his...
Both Isabel and Lily have gone, so...
I'm going to go.
Come
I'm
on,
going to go.
Jon.
I'm going to find...
It's great.
Boss woman, I'm taking a day off and I'm going shooting, all right? We got a little ad for the brand new episode of Spillover with Alex Clark. Always spicy. Check it out. We'll be back.
My dating life was a movie. Every weekend, it really was.
This guy does not want to be with you. There's
every single sign in your face.
Why does
But
it matter?
He had 7 charges against him, all these mugshots, one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. And I was like, Alex, you wanted to go home with a criminal.
This guy said, hey, you know that guy that you've been talking to on Bumble? And I said, yes. And he said he was murdered. I think that was the first time in my life that I ever was like in a dangerously dark place.
When Alex comes to stay with me in Indiana, I have to put child's juice in my fridge.
What is something that would shock people about me that I probably wouldn't ever be willing to share myself?
You very much were a launching pad for Crime Junkie.
The shade! His dad tells me on the vacation, you love my son more than he loves you.
You are a spoiled brat, conceited mean girl. Like,
Questionable decisions there, Alex Clark. My goodness. Yeah, if you want to watch that craziness, go ahead. You got to follow the spillover, follow Politics, follow Alex Clark, and check that out. My goodness, I don't think I have dating stories like that. But my goodness, Alex Clark, always spicy. But once again, happy Earth Day, everybody. We got Lily Standley, Paige, Roux, Isabel Brown, and Jon Root. Earth Day, I know there's like plenty of conservatives that are out there just like, that's a thing that was conjured up by the left in order to push some crazy legislation, and they love Mother and worship Mother Earth and all this stuff. But I think the best stewards of the planet have been conservatives, and I know you talk about that all the time, Isabel.
I do. This is one of my weird, nerdy topics that I love to nerd out about all of the time, but I think it's really important for us to know because this is never talked about in modern American society, ever. I think you're so right, John. People are turned off by the concept of Earth Day because it was founded under weird, nefarious circumstances, and the guy who came up with the concept of Earth Day was not a good guy, so you should check that out.
Pretty
but
sketch.
It's an interesting opportunity for us to reclaim the narrative from the left on who is actually conserving American public lands, who's really stewarded our environment and taking care of that and pushing a more sustainable future. It's conservatives. 100%. It's not the left. And if you look through the history of conservation in America and around the world, it has consistently been conservative leaders in public policy and the private sector who have made sure that we can enjoy all the things that we do today and play outside in our country. Who founded the National Park Service? Conservatives. Who set aside the first public land in our country ever? Conservatives. Thanks, Abraham Lincoln. Who started the Environmental Protection Agency? Conservatives. I know you guys are seeing some fun pictures of us playing outside, which we love. Who is innovating alternative energy sources at the end of the day? Capitalists. And so I think
Lily.
we love that. Beth Sutton vibes. I think that there's a really unique opportunity for conservatives to reclaim this narrative because taking care of the environment is the #1 issue for Gen Z across the board. It doesn't matter what political affiliation you are affiliating with, doesn't matter how you vote, doesn't matter what political affiliation your family is from. Gen Zers care about this issue so substantially, and if we can actually take the time to have these real conversations with them, I think there's a really bright future for the conservative
Can I
movement.
say something real quick?
Do it.
I'm so sorry. That last picture of me. You guys, that happened a few weeks ago. I have never caught a fish.
That was your first time? First fish?
I shot a fish for the first time, and I'm so on brand. I'm so proud of it. But
That was your first fish?
That was my first fish. I've never caught a fish, but we were bow fishing, and I shot a fish before I caught one.
Very Paige.
So
I'm curious what you guys think about all of that and why we have let this narrative be taken over by the left and really been on the defensive of this instead of talking about it.
I think it's about, like you said, like we always have to play defense, and so it's the fact that they push certain narratives, they push these things, and so now we're like, well, and they use Earth Day to do that, and so now we're like, well, no, like we need to stand up and say, no, Earth Day is also about preserving our land and being proud of our land and that as well. But now we're again playing defense. We're like, well, no, that's not what Earth Day is about. So now we're maybe anti-Earth Day, and they're doing that to us. Don't let them do that to us. Enjoy your planet, enjoy your land, and act by helping preserve that land. I mean, so for my shooters out there, I'm talking to you, do this. All of those pictures were of me shooting out in the desert. Pick up your brass. If you're shooting something, I see couches, people shoot at couches. pick your crap up, preserve that land so that you can continue enjoying your sport. That's why I love shooting outdoors. But we do cleanup days like that. A lot of ranges actually, and a lot of people in the firearms industry will come together and we'll do massive range cleanup days to preserve our public land. That is something that you can do to celebrate Earth Day.
Love it.
No, I totally agree. I think the left, they use things that are convenient to them in order to push agendas or to make money. There's a lot of money to be made in this green energy stuff.
So true.
And I think we need to acknowledge that and understand that, although I think our end game is the same. I think conservatives and liberals can agree that there is something to be preserved here, but the methods are different. And I think that's the problem. They will do these things to make money, and the liberals will go out and they'll do these giant protests and stuff, and then they'll just trash the place. They're leaving all the signs everywhere.
Masks are everywhere in the ocean now.
Yes, they do it because, again, the left has no personal responsibility, and getting a big government policy to do it takes the responsibility off themselves to have to be the ones to clean up or whatnot, because if they can get it taxpayer funded or what, then they're being more productive in their weird, twisted head. And I think conservatives need to reclaim that ground. I'm very fascinated by what you said about the national parks being founded by conservatives and whatnot, and it really just speaks true to our testimony. I mean, that's how it's been. The people that I saw a very interesting picture of, like, the city looking down at, like, New York City and how all these tall buildings, and it said, it's funny how the people that live in these cities are the ones screaming about the climate. And it's very true. When we started moving up instead of out, we lost our priorities, and I think we need to just value the earth responsibly, take care of it, clean up after yourself, clean up your stuff, and really truly value it personally. These don't have to be big institutional changes. They can happen right with you. The masks in the street and all that, throw away your trash, don't litter. I broke up with a boy for littering once, and I think everybody should do that. Because I love you, Lily. Oh my God.
Alex Clark dates a criminal, and Lily breaks
and you
up for
break up with somebody. No, I did. I was mortified. I cried. I don't know. Some things just get under my skin, and that's one of them because it's so unnecessary.
It totally is unnecessary.
It's violent, and every time I see somebody throw their cigarette butt out the window, I just sit on my horn, because I just think that they're just violent. It's disgusting. I don't know. We need to protect the earth. There's different ways of doing it. It doesn't need to be a giant, big, funded operation. You can do it individually.
Well, and the giant, big, funded operations don't work, right? So if you look at countries like China, they are by far and large the most single pollution-oriented country on Earth.
Great.
They put more plastic into the ocean than every other nation on Earth combined, by like a factor of 4 or 5
but we
every
can't talk
single
about
year.
that.
Their carbon emissions are actually going up right now, while the rest of the world's are going down. And the left and AOC are looking at China, and they're like, this is the future. We need socialism to make sure we care about the earth. If we really care about the environment, I'm pretty sure it's not through methods like that, because increasing the size and scope of the government and increasing bureaucracy decreases efficiency. So wouldn't you want to have more personal responsibility and have people make those own decisions for themselves?
John Kerry, too, like the head. Yeah. Okay, and John Kerry's the guy who's the big environmentalist guy, and he was seen on a private jet, and when they asked him about it, he said, it's the only way for people like me. Meaning, this complete elitist mindset. So get your boots on, get your gloves on, go out, go clean a beach, and preserve your earth individually.
And then finally, too, we need to make sure that we remember at the root of this, we're given a gift of the earth.
Totally.
And then you don't need to go past the first chapter in the Bible to know that we're supposed to be stewards of this place.
Yep.
And then from there, it's like we're told to fill the earth, subdue it, and then one of the first commands that God ever did was just like, go work that soil a little bit, Adam.
Yeah.
Go do that. The birds of the air, animals of the sea, you take care of them. You have dominion over them. And I think we have the ability and a privilege to be a part of this earth and treat it well. And I think there's times where we have Earth Day and we start celebrating and worshiping Earth more than the person that created it.
Yeah.
And I think there's plenty of times when we finally get outside. We've been through 2+ years of people being told stay inside, that we've missed out on the beauty of creation. I feel like a lot of times we feel like a nice little separation from the craziness of life, work, politics. When we finally go out, we don't have service, we're not on our phones, we're not working on something, and then you can really have like an understanding, and I know it sounds hippie-ish, but like this connection to the earth. But
it's the long hair, John.
I'm going to say this right
John.
now. Modern granola hippie people are conservatives, so that's all I'm going to leave you with there.
Boom. But happy Earth Day, everybody. We're going to be back for one last thing, getting you pumped up about the Young Women's Leadership Summit coming up in June.
right, guys, you have signed up, right? You've joined freedomsquare.com. If you haven't, why not? This should have happened a decade ago. How did somebody not think of this earlier? If you're a business owner, we have a business directory to promote your business to patriots across the nation. So if you want to buy American, if you want to sell American, we have a business directory. Whatever it is, go now.
Join us in the fight for freedom. Welcome to Freedom Square.
Sweet.
Even more ladies on the couch. What a time. What a great day this has been. Welcome back to TPUSA Live. We're at TPUSA HQ. Isabel and I are just taking over the best couch here.
Obviously.
And we got some new faces. Some of our coworkers here talking about YWLS. But before we hear your testimony and the importance of the Young Women's Leadership Summit, why don't we play a little promo to get you excited, get you pumped up, and tell you how you can get registered for the event.
Back in 2018, I was feeling so alone at work, and I knew that I wanted to get around other people that thought the same way as I did.
They were all so motivated and passionate, and I knew immediately that I wanted to surround myself with these types of women.
There's so many women there who are passionate about what they believe in. Like, it's a little bit harder for women to get involved in politics, so you have to be passionate about it.
It's also an opportunity for true sisterhood and connection with other young women who believe in the same values that you hold true to your heart every single day, who will cheer you on when you stand up for those things in your community, and who will be your best friends and your family for years to come.
I can't wait as a dude to be there. It's going to be incredible.
John!
Part of the sisterhood. Let's go. But you can go to tpusa.com/YWLS. You can use promo code Isabel, promo code Paige, promo code Morgan, promo code Politics, or you can use promo code John. You're really good. But introduce your guys selves and then tell us about your testimony behind YWLS, because I know you touched on that a little bit last time you were on the couch.
Yeah,
Madison.
so my name is Madison McLean, and I love YWLS. It's my favorite event that Turning Point does. I'm super excited because last year was just super impactful for me. It's really cool to see so many women who are coming from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, and they're sharing the same stage together. It's really, really awesome. And last year I noticed a really cool theme throughout, just the importance of faith being stressed throughout the entire event, and just putting our faith and trust in the Lord and His plan for our lives, and just His power that He has to put us on that path. And so I'm really excited to see this year what theme emerges. You're going to have to come and see and find out, but it's going to be really fun. So
I heard it's got a skater boy vibe.
Ooh.
Little Avril Lavigne, little early 90s.
A little edgy.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's going to be beautiful. My name's Whitney Reynolds. I work in the Faith Department. I'm a director in our new initiative of the Faith Department, and kind of tailoring off of what Madison said, I love the fact that being a person of faith, working in the Faith Department, a lot of the speakers talk about how important their faith is, how being a mother, being a wife, and even being career-oriented has really driven their direction and the way that they want to live their life, being people of faith. And so it's been really inspiring to hear them openly talk about it, especially culturally where we are today, where it's kind of taboo to talk about faith or how it's relevant towards today or women's lives. So I love that we can all be gathered together, be conservative, be people of faith, and talk about it and be proud of it.
For sure. Well, I'm Lily DeCecco, and I'm part of the Human Capital Department. I am a senior administrator. I went to YWLS 2019, and that was my first involvement with Turning Point whatsoever. From there, I was inspired to start a chapter on my campus, and I knew instantly I wanted to work for Turning Point one day, and here I am. So definitely I recommend to every girl out there to go to the careers table for Turning Point Careers while you're there. It's just going to be a really exciting, inspirational event, and only going to grow our movement from there. So excited to see it happen.
Isabel, tell us about the sisterhood a little bit more.
Oh, the sisterhood. The irony here is that I totally sounded like I was in a sorority in that video. I was never in a sorority. I'm a proud GDI these days, which is rare to find, but that's okay. My first exposure to Turning Point was also at YWLS, like Lily. I attended YWLS in 2017, and it was right around the time that I was starting to be outed as that evil, conservative, white power Barbie girl on my college campus, according to all the crazy professors at Colorado State University. And I was sitting in the student government office one day while everybody else in student senate and our student government was talking crap about me behind my back while I was sitting there in that office, and I got a sponsored Facebook ad as I was scrolling through Facebook trying to tune everybody out for this event. I had no idea what Turning Point USA was. I had no idea who Charlie Kirk was. I actually had to Google him when he went on stage to open the entire conference. I knew very little about the conservative movement, but I totally fell in love, just like you, Lily, and knew that I wanted to be a part of this movement someday. It is so inspiring and such an interesting opportunity to connect with women on a really authentic level, which I think is very much missing from the 2020s right now, especially when we've all been locked away from one of each other for the past couple of years. So I would really love to encourage all of you guys to come. These are just a few of our speakers from the first speaker drop. I know they have tons of special surprises coming up, but we hope to see you there.
Yeah, we got a speaker announcement that's going to be dropped hopefully soon. And no, that's like a few of the people that are going to be at this event, but you can go to tpusa.com/YWLS. It is fun having my perspective there because all the contributors go, and I just kind of feel like a dad. Where it's like, these are like my daughters around here. It's like, oh, you guys are making new friends. That was you. This is great. I love it. Once again, tpusa.com/YWLS. You can use promo code Isabel or Jon. Thanks so much for being here. Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily, powered by Turning Point USA. Today's April 21st, 2022, Anno Domini. Today's top headlines. First, the Colorado governor, Jared Polis, offers Disney asylum as he urges Disney to leave Florida. Next, Saudi prince says he will not release more oil into the U.S. market amid declining U.S.-Saudi relations because of Biden's bumbling. Third, Johnny Depp testifying in the defamation trial against ex-wife Amber Heard, and what does this have to do with the Washington Post? And then finally, Alec Baldwin claiming he's been exonerated over this new report in Helena Hutchins' death. But has he really? All this and more ahead, Human Events Daily. Well, Governor Jared Polis of Colorado has responded now to Ron DeSantis over this whole flap with Disney. So what's he getting into, right? So he tweets it out. Jared Polis, Florida's authoritarian socialist attacks on the private sector are driving businesses away. In Colorado, we don't meddle in the affairs of companies like Disney or Twitter. Hey, Disney, we're ready for Mountain Disneyland. And Twitter, we're ready for Twitter HQ2, whoever your owners are. So there's a lot to go through here, a lot to break down. Number one, we don't meddle in the affairs of the private sector. Are you kidding me? Show me any business anywhere in the United States at any level that doesn't have to go through government regulations, government red tape, government restrictions, taxes, the whole 9 yards. Taxes, tax credits, compliance, non-compliance. It's a joke. So it's obviously a joke that companies don't have any, well, meddle in with this. That's a socialist thing to do, meddle with our companies. Yeah, cut me a break, dude. Every single company in the entire country that's ever existed, going back to like the 1700s, had to deal with some form of government, quote unquote, meddling. And this idea of a laissez-faire, government that has nothing to do, it doesn't exist. It literally doesn't exist. It only exists on paper. It's never been a thing in the real world, period. So I know that, marijuana is legal over there in Colorado now. So I don't know if Jared Polis maybe was dipping his beak a little bit in when he wrote this tweet, but that's kind of what it feels like, because what he's saying literally makes no sense. That being said, authoritarian socialism, really, authoritarian socialism, because, that's actually the opposite of socialism, because what's Governor DeSantis doing? Yes, he's using the power of government. Yes, he's using this as a lever of power. But what's he actually doing in the effective cause, right? The effective cause of what he's doing is to take away a special governance status from Disney that was granted to him by the state of Florida to begin with 55 years ago. So this law that DeSantis essentially is repealing was put in place as a special status for Disney to give them self-governance over the area that later became Walt Disney World, right? They have that as a special status granted to them by the government. This whole thing started with government. It has nothing to do with, authoritarian socialism attacks, not even. All he's saying is, guess what? We're going to actually treat Disney the same way we treat every single other company in the state of Florida. And why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we? Because Disney is acting like they're their own government. Well, let me tell you something. To the people at Disney, and I said it yesterday, you are not a sovereign government. You do not have sovereignty. State of Florida has sovereignty. The United States of America has sovereignty. Corporate power is not sovereign. And it's finally time that conservatives like Governor DeSantis stand up and use those sovereign rights that are granted to them by the people of Florida, empowered by the Constitution of the state of Florida, the same way that all 50 states have their state constitutions empowering them, right? Empowered through our system of federalism and the constitutional republic in which we reside. That's our system. Go read through any of the constitutions, right? The states or the federal government. You will not see anything in there that says Disney World gets sovereignty. Doesn't work that way. Literally doesn't work that way. So you're kind of wrong. Maybe you need to go listen to Freedom Papers with Morgan Zegers a little bit to understand how our government actually works or is supposed to work. Because when a government gives you a special handout, and by the way, he mentions Twitter again, Section 230, again, that's immunity that's granted by the government, immunity from several sets of laws. That's also a special status that's been granted by government. If we're taking away something that government gave you and treating you the same way that we would treat any other company, that's not socialism. That's actually the opposite of that. But I'll do you one further. I have no problem with conservatives using the power of government to bring these woke and out-of-control corporations to power, to heel. It's time. They've gotten too powerful. They're switching around too much weight. They're shifting around too much weight. They're trying to act like they have sovereignty. No one elected them. It's time to start bringing them down to size.
And I would make it very clear, we were not going to, in fact, sell more weapons to them. We were going to, in fact, make them pay the price and make them, in fact, the pariah that they are. There's very little social redeeming value in the present government in Saudi Arabia.
Well, the Wall Street Journal is out with an incredible piece. How the U.S.-Saudi relations reached the breaking point. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman essentially threw Jake Sullivan, Biden's national security advisor, out of a meeting at his seaside palace that they were holding last September. It says the 36-year-old Crown Prince ended up shouting at Mr. Sullivan after he raised the 2018 killing of Saudi Jamal Khashoggi. The prince told Mr. Sullivan he never wanted to discuss the matter again, and the U.S. could forget about its request to boost oil production. The Biden administration's foreign policy when it comes to pretty much everywhere in the world is completely insane. These people so when you look at what they're doing to Saudi, so Biden has said during the debates, he said that he would hold them all accountable. He would treat them as a pariah. You see him using that same language for Russia right now. He said that they released a report all about the killing of Khashoggi. They attacked them. They're demeaning them. They're demonizing them. And then they go out hat in hand. Oh, by the way, they pulled the air defense missile systems from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia back to the United States. And then they go hat in hand and say, please, 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 will you continue to up your oil production? It's like it's absolutely bipolar. Because keep in mind, on one hand, they're trying to tell the Saudis what to do. We're not buying as much oil from Saudi as we used to. Saudi's now buying more oil selling more oil to China. The CCP is a far bigger strategic partner for them than we ever were. And the CCP is going to sit there and say, we don't care what you do. We don't care what happens internally. You have somebody you want to get rid of? We don't care. The CCP might take notes from the Saudis when it comes to that stuff. It's all about money for them. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is also reviving the Iran deal. How do you think the Saudis feel about that? How do you think the Saudis feel about Iran getting nuclear weapons, right? And then you go over there and point your finger and start telling them what they're going to do and attacking them at the same time. These people are highly educated imbeciles. I keep saying this about Secretary of State Tony Blinken and Jake Sullivan, who we know, by the way, was involved in the dossier operation all the way back in 2016. He's somehow even dumber, somehow actually even dumber than Tony Blinken. It's like the apple keeps falling down. So first you get Tony Blinken, then even dumber that is Jake Sullivan, and then finally you get Joe Biden, who's just dumbest of them all. And Jill Biden's got to tell him to wave at the Easter Bunny, right? So when you're looking at this, and you step back for a second, you realize these are the people that are running our foreign policy. These people running our country. These are the people who are making decisions for 315 million Americans. And the number, of course, is going up because our borders are being poured across, and they're talking about lifting Title 42 to actually stop catching people and then sending them back. Wonderful, wonderful job that you're doing there as the president holding our foreign policy. You know, we used to have a president that talked about peace. We used to have a president that went to the Saudis and said, you guys should deal with the radical jihadist problem in your area, and we'll work with you, but it should be your job. We used to have a president that talked about peace deals in the Middle East, in Asia, and in Europe. Wouldn't it be nice to have a president like that again?
And I watched you lie, and then
I didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, you've been in a lot of fights. You've been around a long time. I know. Yeah.
No, when you have a close
You didn't get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not deck you. I was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are you tough?
What am I supposed to do? Do this? I'm not sitting here about it, am I? You are. That's the difference between me and you. You're a baby.
So what you just heard is a recording of Amber Heard mocking Johnny Depp after she battered him during one of their many arguments during their brief marriage. So you're going to say, I know, I get it. You're going to say, Poso, why are you talking about this? What is it? It has to do with nothing, right? Why are you talking about Johnny Depp, Amber? I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you right now why we're going to talk about this. Because every single one of you in your life has experienced or knows somebody who is a Johnny Depp that's stuck in a relationship with an Amber Heard. Because this is a teachable moment. And because it happens to involve two people that are incredibly famous celebrities. One, I get that a lot of Gen Z doesn't quite get why Johnny Depp is such a big deal. He was literally the most famous actor in the world for like 15 years, right? And so Amber Heard, obviously trying to use his fame to bolster her own career, et cetera, right? Gets involved with him, gets married to him. And I've had, by the way, since I've started tweeting about this trial, I have had so many people from the Hollywood kind of sphere, the movie industry, reaching out to me about Amber Heard. And they're all saying, it's actually kind of sad because they're all saying, look, we always knew this about her. We always knew this about her. Everybody knew this about her. But for some reason, Johnny just couldn't see it. Johnny just couldn't see it. Even Johnny testified at one point that his kids were telling him, get away from her. This is not good for you. So what's going on in the trial? All right, let me back up a little bit. Why is this trial even happening? Why is it happening, by the way, just outside of Washington, D.C.? It's actually only about 30 minutes from where we filmed the show here. I was thinking about, should we go? Should we do something? I don't know. What would we get out of that? We'll see. Still haven't decided yet. But Johnny Depp is suing Amber Heard specifically in this case because of an op-ed that she wrote where? The Washington Post, the same place where Taylor Lorenz writes what she calls journalism today. Amber Heard is the Taylor Lorenz of Hollywood. Here's what's going on. That op-ed was written by the Washington Post, and the Washington Post's computer servers happen to reside in Northern Virginia. So Johnny Depp's lawyers, because they're well-paid lawyers, they filed suit against her in the state of Virginia. State of Virginia, which has actually very strong defamation laws, whereas federally and in many states in the U.S., we do not have very strong defamation laws. State of Virginia does. California, not so much. So Amber Heard lawyers were trying to get this moved over to California. Johnny Depp's lawyers said, no, right here. So this is all about this Washington Post op-ed where she claimed that she was a victim of sexual violence, right? That was the main thing she was talking about in this. Now, she doesn't actually mention Johnny Depp in the article. And they bring this up during the trial. They brought this up at some point and they said, why, she didn't mention you by name, then, how can you even bring the suit? Well, it turns out that under Virginia law, you can sue someone for what's called defamation by implication. And huge shout out, go watch Recchietta Media. They are doing fantastic analysis on this. Totally got sucked into it watching it yesterday. But that's basically the way the case lays out. Johnny Depp's never been able to tell his side of it. Obviously, he lost his entire career, gets kicked out of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, gets kicked out of the Harry Potter prequels. He was playing the main villain there. So lost so much reputation. He's basically PNG, persona non grata. But here's what it's all about, folks. What I hear in those videos is gaslighting. I didn't hit you. You hit me. You started it. I didn't start it. When Johnny Depp's saying again and again, I just wanted to leave. I could feel it getting, heated. I didn't want to continue. And she keeps chasing him. At one point, he even testified that she put nail polish on a handkerchief and then came to him and said that he broke her nose, making him think that he had hit her when he hadn't actually hit her. There's another part of it where they say she threw a vodka bottle at him and it chopped off the top half of his finger. And I'm not even going to get into what supposedly happened to their bed sheets. But I just want to say to anybody out there who's in a relationship like this, male, female, this stuff cuts both ways. You cannot fix them. They have a problem that you don't have the tools to fix. You do not need to be the white knight. You are not going to save them. What you need to do is walk away. And it doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're understanding the situation and seeing it for what it is. Do not lose the best years of your life in a toxic relationship like that.
You felt shock. You felt anger. You felt sadness. Do you feel guilt?
No. I feel that there is. I feel that someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me.
Well, Alec Baldwin, speaking of crazy actors and actresses, is now claiming that he's been exonerated in the shooting death of Helena Hutchins, the woman that he shot and killed in New Mexico last year, where he's still yet to face any charges whatsoever for this. Look, and I'll just say it with this. When it comes to Alec Baldwin, when it comes to this case, right, you got to put that before a jury. This is the kind of thing where we know how this works, right? We talk about prosecutors. We talked about Binger, the prosecutor up in Kenosha for Kyle Rittenhouse. By the way, I'm going to be speaking in Kenosha this Saturday, so if you guys are there, speaking up there at a spring meeting. So come out, Kenosha will be there. But these prosecutors have prosecutorial discretion. They can decide whether or not to bring charges. They should bring charges on Alec Baldwin. All of these questions are too big to be left out of the hands of a jury. Put it to trial. Let there be a jury. It looks like manslaughter. Charge him with that. Charge him with criminal manslaughter. See what happens. Roll the dice. Because there is no actor exemption for manslaughter. But listen to this. A new report has come out blaming the production team for shoddy safety that led to a star fatally shooting the cinematographer, even though he himself was a producer. New Mexico safety regulators put out a report saying that the producers were responsible for Helena Hutchins' death. Keep in mind, Alec Baldwin was a producer. But you listen to this. In the report, officials cited a slew of willful and serious violations that led them to their decision and slammed producers for failing to follow safety guidelines. The producers of the Western were ordered to pay the sum by New Mexico safety regulators for safety failures over $100,000 after the death of Helena Hutchins. But what's amazing is that they say, well, Alec Baldwin was really only involved with the script and some of the casting, so it's really not his fault. Okay? Cut me a break. That's manslaughter. That's straight up, it doesn't matter who loaded the gun. Let me tell you something. If this guy was like, you know, Alec Jimbo walking down the street, someone hands him a gun, he points it at someone and pulls the trigger and shoots them, right? And said, oops, I'm so sorry. He'd already be in jail. He'd already be convicted by the end of this. It's only because of the power of his celebrity and the fact that he was the guy that used to play former President Trump on SNL that you're seeing this huge behind-the-scenes machinery work to protect him because he's one of their guys. Because he's one of their guys. That's all they did. They replaced him on SNL. They never really explained why. He just stopped showing up one day. Yeah, because you shot and killed a woman. And it's horrific. Shoots and kills Ukrainian woman, Helena Hutchins, the producer. Right? And by the way, when I was watching that video, speaking of this, of Malcolm Nance on MSNBC being interviewed by Joy Reid, and he's got that uniform worn incorrectly, and he's holding an AK. He's got the safety off of that AK. Right, on an AK, the way the selector switch works is safety all the way up, halfway down is full auto, and then all the way down is semi-auto, right? So he's got it halfway. It looks to me from that video that he's got it halfway down. That means it's on full auto as he's talking to a camera crew. So great job, Malcolm Nance. Great job, Doofius. You just went up to a camera crew with your gun on full auto. I guess you went to the Alec Baldwin School of Rifle Safety. Look, these people, they think they're better than everybody else. They think the law doesn't apply to them. They think they're above the rules. They think that whatever they do, because their intentions are so pure and that they're so great, that they're a cut above. Remember, I keep saying it. It's not hypocrisy. It's hierarchy. We don't have the rule of law. We have the two rules of law. We have one set for the aristocrats and one set for the peasantry. Know your place. Know your role. That's what we can learn from the Alec Baldwin situation. And that's it for us here today. Human Events Daily. Remember our promise, our oath, our solemn vow to you. Be good, be brief, be gone. Your homework for us. Share this out with just one of your normie friends and leave us your 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your politics. What did we talk about today? The Colorado governor offering Disney asylum as he urges Disney to leave Florida. Next, the Prince of Saudi Arabia says he will not release more oil into U.S. markets amid declining U.S.-Saudi relations. Again, thanks to Biden bumbling. Johnny Depp testifying in his defamation trial against ex-wife Amber Heard. Beware Black Widow traps, young kings and queens out there. And finally, Alec Baldwin claiming he's been exonerated, but he actually hasn't. Before we go, today's moment of history is actually a birthday. Today is the 96th birthday of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Happy birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.
Today, we're deep diving into my personal life. I mean, really deep diving. And the overarching theme of this episode is friendship. I know how intimidating it can feel to make friends as a young adult or just an adult, period. I mean, you can't just go up to someone and be like, do you want to be my friend? And then bam, you have a new best friend like you did when you were 5, right? And then you have to throw into the mix finding friends that at least share your core values enough that they won't judge you or abandon you. What if I told you that there's a 2-day event that makes all of this possible? It's Turning Point USA's Young Women's Leadership Summit in Dallas, Texas. It's happening June 2nd to the 4th, and it features some of the biggest, boldest, and most exciting speakers in the conservative movement discussing everything that it means to be a woman with conservative women from all over the country. People exactly like you from all 50 states with the same interests. Make lifelong friends, feel encouraged and educated to take back this country, and experience the most incredible event production value in the conservative movement. And I am telling you that, as someone who works in politics, there is no event that comes close. What are you waiting for? Text your conservative friends to get tickets. Whether you're a student or working gal, this event is for you. Go to tpusa.com/YWLS and use code POPLITICS to get 50% off your tickets. I'll see you there. On New Year's Eve of 2016, when I was living in Indianapolis, I was squished into an Uber with a bunch of my then boyfriend's friends on my way out to ring in the new year when I got an interesting email. Normally people, when they've been pre-gaming, are not checking their email in an Uber on their way out to celebrate New Year's Eve, but you haven't met me. I never turn work off. So this was when I was co-hosting a morning show on the radio, and it was from a girl who said that she loved my show and she was new to the area and wanted advice from me, someone who happened to also be new to the area at the time, on making friends as an adult. Tipsy me responded, and I ignored her asking for advice. I just said, hey, how about we meet up for a friend day? Here's my number. And the rest is history. We started hanging out almost every weekend, watching The Bachelor together on Monday nights, and I even set her up with the best friend of the guy who I was dating at the time. Long story short, but they got married. She's my third friend that I've set up who's gotten married, by the way. But over the course of our friendship these last 5 years, she's truly become the number one closest person in my life. And she's also seen me go through multiple serious relationships and also some not so serious ones. We've been through it all. Crazy nights out, professional career drama, and even me moving across the country. She is the only person on the planet that I have shared literally everything with about my life and knows me better than absolutely anyone. She's never been afraid to call me out for my flaws in relationships or otherwise, and that isn't changing now. I asked Conservatives to send in questions that only my best friend could answer about me. Here to give the dirt on me, answer questions sent in by you, share things about me that I probably would never share myself, and to talk about friendship and finding true friends as an adult is my best redheaded friend, Lauren Kint, on The Spillover. When you emailed me and you were expecting advice, but then I emailed you back and I just said, want to go out for a girlfriend lunch with me? Were you shocked? What was your impression?
My impression or what I thought?
Both, all of it.
Both. Well, I was surprised because you didn't know me. I could have been a murderer for all you knew.
True.
Luckily for you, I wasn't.
Many times in my life I have said, let's meet up, and they might have actually been a murderer.
True. And then my first impression of you when I met you, spaz.
Okay, let's have a truth moment here, a Bible moment, as the Kardashians would say. Did you like me when you first met me or no?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Because I didn't know if I liked you.
Oh, thanks. Rude.
It wasn't that I didn't I liked you, but I didn't know that if we had clicked, like, we would be as close as we are. And I just thought maybe we were too different because you are. Just personality-wise, I don't know how to explain it. You're more, definitely a little bit more introverted when you first meet somebody, but there was just some things I just thought maybe I'd be too much for you. But it's funny because I think one of the reasons that we ended up being such close of friends is because of those differences. Yeah. That I am a lot more than you. But we balance each other out. And you keep me in check.
I do.
Yeah.
So it's a job that I don't get paid enough for.
That's for sure. She helps me with everything. Lauren helps me with the Cute Conservatives Facebook group. She pretty much runs my life behind the scenes that I don't think she gets enough credit for. So, okay. I think it's important that we start with basically the first major relationship drama that I ended up going through after meeting you, which was this guy that at the time I had named the Carpenter. And so one thing you have to understand is that if you didn't follow me or you're not familiar with me before doing Politics and the Spillover with Turning Point USA, is I was a morning show co-host in pop radio. And so every morning I would come on and I would talk about my personal life and guys that I was dating and different things like that. But you can't just talk about somebody and talk crap about them with their real name. You got to be respectful when you're calling them out, right? So I would come up with weird nicknames based on their characteristics. And there was a guy that I started dating and he like did woodworking and stuff. So we nicknamed him the Carpenter. And I'm going to tell the story of the Carpenter and like what happened, why we broke up. And then I'll just let you react and tell your side of things from the outside of you dealing with the fallout, which was a lot.
It was my, what's the word I'm looking for? My initiation into Alex.
Well, it was her initiation into me, but also the thing is that I set her up. This guy is still in our freaking lives because I was the dumbass that set her up with his best friend. So this guy, the Carpenter, is still in my life to this day because he's her husband's best friend. So I set her up with his friend. I'm dating this guy. And literally after I set them up like a month later.
A week.
A week?
It was a week.
I thought it was a month.
1 week.
Okay. See, one other thing is Lauren is my memory. I don't remember anything and I have the worst memory, and Lauren always tells me things that I forget. So we break up, and what's crazy is he was several years older than me, like 7 years or something, and he was a cancer survivor. He had Hodgkin's lymphoma and survived it, and so he went through chemotherapy and all this stuff. And so one night he calls me out of the blue, and we've been dating for a few months. I was head over heels in love with him. It was just one of those things, and you know, now looking back, I'm like, I don't understand why, but he was the first guy that I started dating after I moved to Indianapolis. I totally fell for him. I met his family. I went home with him for Thanksgiving, all these different things. He met my family. And, you know, we had said, I love you and all these things. In my mind, it was pretty serious. He acted like it was very serious. So when he called me out of the blue to say, I need to tell you something and I really need you to think about it, take some time and tell me if you want to be with me, this was the last thing I was expecting. So he brings up, you know, hey, you remember that I had cancer and all this? And I'm like, of course. And he says, because of the chemotherapy that I went through, there is a very high chance that I will be sterile and that I'm not going to be able to have kids one day. And he was like, and you know, you're so young and you have your whole life ahead of you. And I know how important it is to you to be a mom. And so I really want you to think about if you would want to date me or not, because if we were to get married, there's a good chance that we'll never be able to have children. That was a bomb that was dropped on me because he's right. It is the number one most important thing to me that I look forward to. And so it was really hard. And we hung up and I thought about it. And I think I called you. Did I call you then? Or no? We weren't close enough for me to call you yet?
No.
Okay. So I hadn't called Lauren yet. I must have called my other friend, some other best friends of mine. I remember calling my mom and just talking about it and just saying, you know, is this something that you should compromise on or that I should compromise on? And they all said, look, when you marry somebody, you never know what they're going to go through or end up, you know, going through. Like Lauren went through having fertility and you and your husband went through, you know, having to do IVF and things like that. Like you never know when you marry someone what that part of your life is going to look like. So to me, I'm like, okay, well, some people get married and you find out you can't have kids. I just happen to know beforehand that we may not be able to. But if you love somebody enough, shouldn't you be willing to kind of go through that? And so I called him back probably within 45 minutes to an hour. And I said, I'm willing to do it. Like, I love you. So I'm willing to be with you. His demeanor, and you know him. Mm-hmm. So like his demeanor completely changed. It wasn't like, oh, great, you know, a relief. Like you still want to be with me. No. His reaction was, oh, well, I have a lot to think about now. So I'm going to have to get back with you. Takes a few days. Doesn't talk to me. I'm in a spiral. I'm just absolutely devastated. He comes over to my apartment, ends up telling me he loves me, but he's not in love with me. And in so many words, basically that I don't want to go camping or like outside things. And he just doesn't think our lifestyles are going to work out. And long story short, I'm like pretty sure he's breaking up with me because or he was using the fertility stuff as an excuse to break up with me. He was trying to get me to break up with him so he wouldn't have to do it. Essentially, he was like taking the coward's way out.
Right.
And so he tells me, for some reason, I don't know why, but he was like, well, I'll go to the fertility clinic and, I'll get a test to show how like strong my swimmers are. So this guy who's already told me he doesn't want to end up with me goes to, allegedly, I don't know, maybe he never went. He goes to the fertility clinic, gets tested, tells me that he has above average swimmers and, he's not going to have any problems actually with his, what do you call that from a guy's perspective? Not fertility, but I don't know, whatever. He wasn't going to have any issues having a kid anyway. They told me it was like an anomaly, or they told him it was an anomaly for somebody that's gone through chemotherapy, how good he was down there.
His count was high.
Yeah, his count was high, whatever. He had Michael Phelps down there. So we break up, whatever. Then I think that's when I really started reaching out to you because I was dealing with this breakup. Now him and his friends were the only people I had, and you were the only person I'd met outside of that friend group. And I was like, oh, great, now I have no one now. Right. And you were still in that group and being around him.
Aaron and I only been dating for a week. We've gone on like 2 days.
So now you're in the middle of this drama. Like you and Aaron, your husband now, are in between these two friends who had just broken up. And so what was your whole perspective of the whole thing? I mean, am I just like a horrible picker when it comes to guys?
You're not a horrible picker. But I think in the past, and I'm not going to speak for right now, but in the past in relationships, you have kind of tried to rationalize different things that deserve no rationalization, like things that this guy does not want to be with you. There's every single sign in your face. This guy does not want to be with you. And I think you used to have a really hard time accepting that because you thought that it was like something you did wrong. And now that we know the carpenter,
we know it was definitely not an issue with me.
There's not, and I'm not saying anything like horrible about him, but he
has a track record. He has a pattern. He finds a problem with every girl he
dates a lot.
After exactly like clockwork, after 3 months, pretty much, he has, her toenails too big or whatever. He'll come up with something and break up with them for any reason. And mine was I didn't want to go camping, and that I had said my dream car was a Range Rover, and for some reason that was just unbelievable to him.
Right. You very much offended him by the
Which I said, why does it matter if I'm paying for it? I should be able to drive whatever freaking car I want. I don't understand why this matters. Like, if I'm paying for it, I'm not asking you, why do you care? And this was just, he still brings it up when we're around because we have to hang out with each other because of Lauren and Aaron. And every single time we're around each other, he goes, remember when you said that you wanted to have a Range Rover? I'm like, yeah, I do. And I still do. And I don't understand why we're still bringing this up. Like, he cannot let it go.
Well, that breakup was interesting because I didn't really know you. I did not know you.
So did you think I was crazy?
I didn't think you were crazy. I didn't know you. I didn't know Aaron. I didn't know the carpenter, like when all that happened. And so I was but in the whole scheme of things, since I had only gone on 2 dates with this guy, I was like really trying to be there for you because I felt so bad. Like you were kind of a hysterical mess.
Really? What do you remember from that time?
You cried on air. You hysterically cried on air. Like, yes, when you told your story.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me just tell you, that wasn't the first time. I cried during my 3 years in Indianapolis on the air. I think I hysterically cried over boyfriends multiple times.
Right. But that was the first one that had happened there that I heard.
Yeah. Well, and the next one, I broke up with him on air essentially and was crying hysterically. So,
Yeah. So I was just trying to help you feel better. But I didn't think you were crazy. I thought that the amount of depression you were going through was kind of a lot for a guy that you'd only been dating for a few months. But
whoa,
caveat to that,
she keeps it real with me.
But he did tell you that he loved you, and then he took it back.
That's true.
And I think that is. Why do guys do that? It's
happened. No, but the other thing is not only why do guys do that, but for some reason it happens to me constantly.
It happens to you constantly.
Oh, every other guy I've dated, this happens to. It happened to me more than once. It happened to me recently.
It has happened to you since I've known you. It's happened to you 3 times.
Yeah,
3 times, and that was the first. So I thought it was a little dramatic, but then again, I understood because he told you that he loved you, and then he said, "Never mind. I'm going to take that back."
Who is your least favorite boyfriend that I've had since you've known me?
the Egyptian.
Why?
You know why.
Okay, we have to give a background on the Egyptian. So the Egyptian was another guy that I dated in Indianapolis. We dated for almost
a year.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it ended up dragging out to a year and a half. It was definitely, I think, in my life, it was the hardest breakup I've ever gone through. It was the longest lingering breakup that I've ever gone through. Just that whole thing put me into like a spiraling depression right before it ended. Like while I was still dating him, I was like, I think honestly, and I've never ever shared this publicly, I think that was the first time in my life that I ever was like in a dangerously dark place, like dark thoughts, dark place, like was how miserable I was just with everything in general.
Yeah. That was the worst you've ever been.
And so that whole thing was, I literally went on vacation with this dude's family, okay? We went to Mexico together, me and his whole family. And his dad tells me on the vacation, you love my son more than he loves you. And so from that moment forward, for the next like 2 months, I was questioning the son. I was just like, are you sure that you really love me? You know, all this. Well, your dad doesn't, your dad says that you don't. And that's super concerning. And so we were fighting. I've never fought with a boyfriend as much as I did with him. It was constant. It was so bad. Just screaming, yelling, calling each other names, like really bad, like super toxic. And
all the time.
So I broke up with him though
on
Valentine's Day on the radio. I break up with him on the radio. I'm sobbing, screaming. I'm laying out all of our dirty laundry. It's like 14 minutes straight of just airing every single private thing about our relationship. He got mad at me for this. He said this to me. It was in hindsight, not my finest moment. Almost all of that I should have kept private, but it was almost like
cathartic.
It was cathartic. I had been holding all of this in for so long. And so we turned that mic on and my co-host had asked me, how was your Valentine's? It was the day after Valentine's Day is what it was. He said, how was your Valentine's Day last night? And I burst into tears. And my co-host had no idea.
Nobody had any idea.
No, I didn't even tell you.
No, you did.
I did?
You texted me. I was on my way home from dinner on Valentine's Day, having a great Valentine's Day. And you texted me and told me, and I was like, oh my gosh. Alex and the Egyptian broke up.
Okay, so you knowing what we had been going through in our relationship and stuff, did me announcing our breakup surprise you or no?
Announcing it on air?
No, to you.
To me.
When I told you.
Yes and no.
I remember another thing that led to one of our fights leading up to that, which was like my last straw, which this is probably stupid. But I asked him for Valentine's Day if he would please go to a Pure Barre class with me. It was like, bring your boyfriend to Pure Barre.
No.
And he said no. He refused. This is the thing, though. It wasn't just that. Every date that I asked, can we go ice skating? Can we go pumpkin patch picking? Whatever. I don't know. The girly, stupid Instagram stuff.
He said no to everything.
He said no to every single thing. I could not get this guy to do anything with me unless it was something he wanted to do with his friends.
With his friends. I never saw you. I mean, I saw you. But I saw you and I, the whole time you guys dated, I saw you just one-on-one, but not as much as before him. You missed my wedding night party. When we went. Remember my wedding night? We went out after my wedding. We went to the Rathskeller for live music, and you missed that because you were with him.
Oh,
because
gosh,
you had
now I feel
his
horrible.
friend's birthday.
Oh, gosh, I feel horrible. I'm like, we're really airing out all my dirty laundry. Like now it's being revealed that I'm a horrible friend.
You're not a horrible friend, but that's just like what he did to you. And that was why not you missing my wedding was not why I couldn't stand him. I couldn't stand him because.
I mean, by the way, wait, I think it's important to say that you didn't. Missing your wedding. Your wedding was you and your husband and your all's parents. That was it. I wasn't allowed at the wedding.
It was the party after.
Yes, the party after.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have missed your freaking wedding for my boyfriend's friend's birthday.
No. But between the carpenter and the Egyptian, you were single and dating off and on for, I don't know, like a year and a half, something like that, before you met the Egyptian. And during that time, I gave you a lot of advice about how to handle relationships and things you should kind of maybe try to do differently. And you did all that with him. You had grown a lot and you were mature and you were compromised. The level of compromising that you did for this clown was ridiculous.
But also, do you think I should tell them the story of how I had met the Egyptian? Because that's kind of a movie in and of itself.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's interesting.
So you have to settle in for this. This is just so crazy. Okay. When I tell you, okay, I have tried to share this with them so many times, but I'm like, you don't understand radio, Alex. When I tell you that my life was a movie, like my dating life was a movie every weekend, it really was. I have the craziest dating stories with guys. So this guy, the Egyptian, I had been on Bumble for a summer, and I started talking to this guy, not the Egyptian. I started talking to this guy on Bumble for about a month. Really liked him a lot. We had everything in common. He was a great responder. Like, I mean, he wasn't like those boring guys on dating apps where they just like, hey, sup? What are you doing? What do you do? Like so boring. We had great conversation, but for some reason, and he kept asking me to go on a date with him. And for some reason, and I always said yes to anyone, I kept saying no. There was something inside of me that was telling me, don't go out with this guy. And a month later, we had a mutual friend. And this guy said, hey, you know that guy that you've been talking to on Bumble? And I said, yes. And he said he was murdered. And I was just like, what do you mean? And he said he was at his house and it was such a tragedy. These kids came up, they tried to rob him, and they ended up shooting and killing him. I never met this guy, but I was so affected by his death. And it was weird, and I felt kind of gross for it. Like, why am I so sad over this guy that I've never met? But he was so young. I think he was 26 at the time, and it was such a tragedy because as soon as he died, I mean, this story was crazy all over the news because he was so involved in the community. I can't remember if he coached like a kid's basketball team. He was super involved in his church. He was a very outspoken Christian, and it was just like everyone in the city knew who this guy was. And it was like people just sharing their testimonies of how this kid, because of him, like they ended up getting saved. And his funeral was live streamed. And I remember being at my apartment and watching the funeral service on my phone because I thought, I can't go to a funeral of a guy I never met that I talked to on a dating app. That's so weird. So instead I like lurked on my phone and watched it. Like, I don't know how that's not even weirder, but I watched it and there were lines of people that were wrapped around this church. Anyway, I say all this to say he had a profound effect on so many members of the community. And so that stuck with me. And he had a side business, like a vintage clothing business that he sold sports memorabilia and sports vintage clothes and stuff. And so his family set up as a memorial to him to cover funeral costs and things, come to this memorial clothing sale or whatever to sell the rest of the stuff from his store. And, you know, the donations will go towards him and all this. So I go and I'm checking out some stuff that I picked out, and his brother, who's younger than me, was like, hey, you're Alex from the radio. Thank you so much for coming. This means so much to our family. Like, my brother had talked about how he really wanted to go out with you. And I just said, what? Like, and he's like, it really means a lot, thank you. And I just got into the car and I just was sobbing. Like, I can't even believe this. So a few months later, I'm at a comedy show, John Crist. I see the brother of the guy that passed away. And
I was with you.
You were?
I was with you at John Crist.
Oh, you're right. Lauren was there.
Yeah.
So this guy's like, Alex, and we waved to each other. That was it. That was the only interaction we have, okay? 6 months after that, I get a DM. I think it's St. Patrick's Day. I get a DM and this guy says, hey, Alex, random question. Are you still single? And I was like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. This guy is not hitting on me. Like his brother, like I literally talked to his brother died. And now the other brother's coming, like trying to get with me. I'm like, this is so weird. And I was like, yeah. And I didn't know if he was asking me out. And he goes, oh, well, I have a friend, one of my best friends. I think you guys would hit it off. And I remember what I said. I said, does he love Jesus and does he love Trump? And he said, yes. And then he sent me his picture, the Egyptians. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is one of the hottest guys I've ever seen in my life. Lauren doesn't think so.
No.
I am very...
He's not unattractive.
He's not unattractive, but I actually have a type, and I never talk about this, but I have a type which is, I don't know, what do you call that?
Tall, dark, and bearded.
Tall, dark, and bearded. So every guy besides Nick, my current boyfriend, every single guy I've dated, for the most part, pretty much could be brothers.
Yes. They all look alike.
All look alike. Very, very specific type. So anyway, that's the story of how I met the Egyptian. And so that night, the next morning, he texted me and we hit it off. And so a week later, we went on our first date, and it was, a year and a half of tumultuous, nightmarish stuff after that. But the family, the guy that passed away, He was great. I mean, well, I don't know.
You
When I talked to him,
you loved his friends.
Loved his friends. I love the Egyptian's friends. I love this guy's family. Everybody else was great. It just wasn't right for him and I. But that is the story of how I met the Egyptian, which is probably one of the craziest dating stories I have.
Probably, yeah. But he was just, I think, and I told you this at the time, I said, Alex, this guy is not ready for a relationship. I'm not telling you that he's like a bad guy.
But why did you think that?
Because he did not know how to communicate. He did not know how to compromise. He did not know how to fight. Like, he hit below the belt every single time. He was very manipulative. You would try to compromise and like, he would not have any of it. It was either like, we're hanging out, we're doing this, and we're doing it with my friends, or we're not doing anything. And it was that every single time. Or even whenever anytime you have like an argument with a boyfriend, you text me and I am like giving you advice of what to say or, helping you kind of process what's going on. And you would apologize to him. And there was just no give and take. It was like all your efforts fell flat. And it was unwarranted because you were really, really trying. And I think that he's probably a nice guy and a good guy. I think. At the time, he was not ready for a relationship. And I think that I was right in that because he started dating somebody else, but it wasn't like right after you.
No, it was like a year later.
Yeah. So.
And they've been together ever since, which is great. So, I mean,
But for you, he was my least favorite.
What do you ask my boyfriends when you meet them for the first time to determine if there's any red flags? Like, what are the things like a guy has to answer about me to know if they're good for me?
Well, it's funny that you ask that because I have not yet met McPlant.
McPlant is Nick. That's what Lauren calls him because he's a vegetarian.
I will never call him Nick. So I haven't met him. So it's been a long time.
So now you're going to share what you're going to ask him, but he can't listen to this because if he listens, he's going to know the answers.
I'm sharing what I've asked your boyfriends in the past and what that was like my telltale. That was what I went by, which was because at the time you were on the radio. Okay.
Right.
And this girl shared everything. Like everything. And so my number one question to them, well, I had two, but my number one question to them would be, how are you okay handling your life being on the radio and maybe sometimes embellished because for the sake of radio? And every single time they said, yes, I have no problem with that.
Every time.
I have no problem with that. And then they had this like fantastical response that I could see right through. And I'm like, yeah, well, let's give it about a month. Like, let's wait till the first fight because that's when they're going to be like, never mind, let's rewind.
You asking that, though, kind of reminds me. Okay, remember in the Pastor JP episode of The Spillover how at the end he was talking about like when I do marriage counseling, I always ask them like, would you ever, is there ever a reason that you would pursue divorce? And they always say, no way. I love this person. Like I'll never divorce them. There could be nothing. And then that's when Pastor JP is like, oh yeah, well, what if they cheat on you with your brother and then make a music video about it? And they're like, well, I mean, maybe then. And then Pastor JP is like, well, then you need to put that in your vows that I will love you forever till death do us part, unless you cheat on me with my brother and then you make a music video about it.
Them saying yes. And then as soon as the first fight happens and you talk about it on air.
Yes.
Bye. I'm not okay with this. I want to be private. I don't want you to post our pictures on Instagram. I'm not going to post any pictures on Instagram.
Exactly.
That was what it was. And so that was the question I would always ask. And then my second one is, which you get this answer on your dates. You always ask on a date. Before you even go on a date with somebody, you want to know if they're a Christian or not. So my question to them is always like, are you a Christian? Are you strong in your faith? Are you going to lead her? Because that's what you're looking for. Because you'll admit like you are a Christian and you know your beliefs, but you admit that you want a man to lead you in like the right theological direction.
I'm not a spiritual leader type of personality.
No. And you shouldn't, well, the man is really supposed to be the spiritual leader of the house. So, and that's what you want. So I always ask that question. Too. Those are my two probably biggest questions that I ask. And then I just kind of watch their behavior.
Okay, well, let's talk about what I do wrong because I have worse traits. And by the way, everything I'm asking these are things that have been sent in by cute servitors too. So what they want to know what my worst traits are
in a relationship.
In
life, you have the same one.
My worst trait is the same in my life and in my relationships?
Yes. And it is, without a doubt, you are the worst self-sabotager I've ever met in my life.
What does that mean?
You self-sabotage everything. If everything is going really, really well, and you're not, I'll give you credit and say you're not as bad about it now as you used to be, but if everything is like smooth sailing, we're going great, we're getting along, then like one little, oh my gosh, he did not text me for an hour. Is he dumping me? We're breaking up.
And then I'll break up with him first so he can't break up with me.
And then you like come up with all these red flags that are not red flags. And then I have to like talk you down. So you're the worst self-sabotager. And you do it in personal life, you do it in your professional life. And you do, I mean, because if you think
I do it in my professional life?
Yes. If you think that like something isn't good, you're a perfectionist in every sense of the word. So if you're working on something or you put content out and it's not doing well, or if it's not perfect, you're not going to put it out. And if you put something out that you think is perfect, but it's not performing the way that you want it to, then you're like, oh my gosh, is this going to be a disaster? Am I going to get fired?
I always, my producers are in my ear going, yes, yes.
You constantly think that, that any moment you're going to get a call from Charlie and he's going to be like, you're fired. We're ending your contract. So you're like the worst self-sabotager. You are getting better about it. But that's your worst trait, because I think that it like has caused you to have arguments that could be avoided and are completely unnecessary.
I'm mostly extroverted, but I have a good size introverted sliver, if you will. And it doesn't bother me to stay in on a weekend and read or binge a TV show that I'm really into. I also love, I don't know about you, but I love to run errands alone or go shop by myself. It is just so peaceful. So the other night, I'm having a little me time, and I cooked up one of my Moink ribeyes. I swear to you, it was the best steak I've ever cooked at home myself. I just sprinkled some Himalayan pink salt on it, pink, cracked pepper, onion powder, and garlic salt. Pretty simple, and it was incredible. Moink, that's Moo plus Oink, is a meat subscription box that delivers grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pastured pork and chicken, and sustainable wild-caught salmon straight to your door. I got ribs in my box, chicken wings, chicken tenders, bacon steak, ground beef, salmon, and tons more. My whole team is fighting me over it. If it sounds like too much food for you, don't worry. You can customize every box so that you get exactly what meat you want. The best part is Moink is helping save rural America by working with small-town farmers all over the country. I love Moink, and I know you will too. Keep America farming by signing up at moinkbox.com/spillover right now, and cute servatives will get free filet mignon for a year. That is 1 year of the best steak you'll ever taste, but for a limited time. That's moink.com/spillover. That's moinkbox.com/spillover. What do you think is a huge misconception people have about me?
Oh my gosh. By and large, that you are a spoiled brat, conceited mean girl. Like that, I think is.
I'm not a mean girl. I thought that I was a mean girl.
I know you thought that because it's written everywhere.
The shade.
I read it all, and I'm here to dispel, because you're not. You are extremely down to earth. You are like one of the most compassionate. Like you are extremely humble and so insecure, but also confident. It's like a weird.
What does that mean? Insecure and also confident.
You exude confidence. You know what you're good at, and you know what you do well, and you feel good about that. And you know, if you're going to say something, whether it be on this podcast or on Politics or on the radio or on your Instagram stories, like you're going to stand behind that. You do not bow to any mob, even if it is your own mob. And so you're very confident, but you're a human. So you get insecure. If you read all these negative, horrible comments, a lot of them don't bother you.
Oh, I cried last night.
But I mean,
it's very hard for me to see a bunch of that crap.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it bothers you more than others. Sometimes I do feel like you get flooded and it's like you don't care. And then other times you get flooded and you're a human and you have emotions and that breaks my heart because when I read those comments, I get so pissed. Like I feel so protective of you.
Sometimes Lauren gets more mad about crap that I get than I do.
Because it's not true. Because the stuff is not true.
I'll get a mean DM on Instagram and I'll send the screenshot to Lauren. And what's funny is, I'm just expecting her to be like, oh my gosh, they suck, whatever. Like a one-off thing. She will not reply though for 25 minutes, but then she'll respond and it'll go bleep, 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 bleep. It'll be like 10 messages and it's all these screenshots of their Facebook profile, their LinkedIn, all this. Like, look how horrible they are. They suck. They have a loser job. They're like, whatever. Like, don't worry about them. She like does a deep dive on them just to make me feel better. Like that you are like my number one bulldog in my life.
Yeah.
Like,
because I know you and I know that there's not a mean bone in your body. You are so compassionate about. So when Bob Saget happened, people were making comments that you were a pedophile.
Because I said that I didn't think that Bob Saget was a pedophile.
Because he's not.
Right.
It was the most insane, ludicrous comment. This girl cares more about sex-trafficked children.
And abused children.
It was like one of the first things that I ever learned about you. It's ridiculous. And so
like super passionate about, like, that's why I am a CASA volunteer. Like that's my number one favorite type of true crime genre is crimes against children because I'm so passionate about it and learning about it and how to, I took a certified class on how to be able to spot and identify abused children and the signs. Like it's true. It's like my number one passion point.
Right. So when I see those comments, like I feel personally attacked. No, I'm not.
Because I'm like your arm. I'm like an extended version of you.
But that's the misconception. I mean, out of what I see. And I see people say that like, you just want to be famous. This girl, I'm here to tell everybody, is not that cool. Like she's not as exciting as you think. She just wants to be a wife and a mom. And like that's.
And I would give all of this up. In a
2
second,
seconds.
If I was told tomorrow, hey, you can either choose to have the spillover and it's the number one podcast in the world, or you can be a wife and a mother, I would choose wife and a mother without hesitating.
You have cried. I don't know how many times you have cried because you think that that's never going to happen for you, which it will, but you think that it's not. That's all you want. And so the fact that there are literal clowns running around the internet saying that you want to be famous and that's all you want, it's laughable. It's laughable. And that's like the biggest misconception.
How do I handle insecurity when I'm feeling insecure? How do I deal with it?
Not well. Well, you're getting better. There's a lot of growth happening with Alex. You have a process. You send me a million messages spiraling. Like they kind of just, the first one starts and then the next one is like more intense and then it's spiraling and then I talk you down. I try to talk you down. Sometimes you retreat. People don't realize this. Alex is pretty introverted. You're pretty introverted. Like you love being alone. You love to just like sit around and read and take baths, which I'll never understand.
When I go to Lauren's house, I'm like, I need to go take a bath or a nap or something, like, because I need to recharge.
Yeah, that's how you recharge. You like to be alone. And people don't realize that about you. So sometimes whenever you get really insecure and it's like really bad, you kind of retreat to yourself. Not like we should be sending authorities to check on you, but you kind of become quiet, which is normally
like I don't reach out to you constantly.
Right.
I'll go like it'll be like longer than a day, which Lauren and I, you have to understand, communicate from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed all day, every day. Yeah. Constant communication. So she knows either if I'm not responding because I'm either working or because something's wrong.
Right.
Usually. Or like maybe I'm distracted because I'm with Nick or something. But.
Right. But I can tell when it's something that's wrong because I know your schedule, so I know the difference. Anyway, so you retreat and then you finally will kind of come out of it. And you can always come out stronger and like with a better perspective. But you do go through this process of like thinking the worst, going through all these crazy scenarios of like what could happen, and then like coming back to reality.
What do you think I will be like as a mom, honestly?
I think you're going to be very chaotic.
What?
But I do think...
In a fun way or in like a horrible way?
Oh, no, in a fun way. In a fun way. You will be... But I also think, you are going to be different as a mom than you think you're going to be.
What? What does that... What do you think I think I'm going to be like as a mom, and what am I actually going to be like? Your prediction.
I feel like in your mind, you as a parent is like carnivals and SpongeBob, if I were to give it an aesthetic.
That's me in general.
Right. So I think that's what you think you're going to be like as a mom. But when you have kids, I think you are actually going to be way more of a worrier about those little things that you may think right now you wouldn't care about. Like, I think you might think, oh, I'll put my kids in front of the TV. I think that you're going to be one of those parents that's like, you get 10 minutes.
No, actually, what's interesting is that since in the last 5 years since we first became friends, I think I've drastically changed what I think I'm going to be like.
When you talk to me about parenting and what you want with your like homeschool, that's you as a parent of school-age children. So I'm kind of talking more like
little
new
like
parent,
toddlers.
like as a new parent,
Okay.
what you're going to be like. And I think you're going to be a really great mom. People don't know this. When I had my twins, you stayed with me for a week.
That's true.
And
I did feedings alone. Both twins at midnight.
In the middle of the night. Alex, I still have a very strict schedule. And Alex, to give me time to sleep and give my husband time to sleep, you did the middle of the night feedings, and you did them by yourself, and you never once asked for me to come help you, even if you couldn't get them to stop crying.
Look at that.
Like, and they were little babies.
Newborns.
So
like a month old.
Yeah. And so,
or actually, they may not even have been a month old.
They were a month.
Okay.
You came right after YWLS.
Okay.
But I think you're going to be a great mom. Like, I don't worry about any of that. And I think you research all the time too. So like everything that you do is going to be something that you've read 65 different books or reports about before you do it.
Do you think I'm going to be a bridezilla?
No.
You don't?
No. Now, 2 years ago, yes.
What's changed?
I think you're older now, and I think that before what you wanted before is not ridiculous. It's normal. You wanted like the normal, big to do, like traditional, huge wedding.
And now I think I just want to get married, so I don't care. We'll elope. I'll go to the frickin' 7-Eleven. We'll do it in front of the Slurpees.
Well, now I just think that you realize more that it
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because it's one day, and
right.
It's, my husband and I did not, as you said, we got married, the two of us, our parents, on a rooftop with a pastor. And it was planned, but like we planned for it to be just that because and it was the most perfect day of my life. It was the most perfect day.
Besides when you met me.
Sure. It was the most perfect day. It was like perfect from the moment that I got up till the moment I went to bed that night. It was perfect. And it wasn't this big fancy whatever. And I think that I don't think you're going to be a bridezilla. I think that you've relaxed about it. And I think even if you do have a more of a traditional wedding, I still think that you're going to be more relaxed about it because you realize that it's one day and it's the marriage that matters.
I literally share my location with you, like on our iPhones.
Yes.
So if I deviate in my schedule at all, which we kind of talked about, you text me right away and ask if something's up. I remember one time Isabel Brown made me go on like some kind of hike or something. So I'm like, my location is showing me snake up some mountain or something. And Lauren is
literally in
me.
the middle of nowhere.
Literally it shows like on iPhone, I'm in the middle of a mountain and Lauren is like, where are you? Are you being trafficked? Like she checks. I mean, which I have to ask you if tracking me and making sure I'm okay is like a full-time job.
Yes. I do not get paid enough. Do you hear me? I do not.
I don't ask you to do that.
You don't. But I worry about you because, as you know, my biggest fears are being kidnapped, raped, and murdered.
Yep.
And
same.
so I'm constantly worried that that's going to happen because you're here and you're not, and you're alone a lot of the time, and you weigh 80 pounds. I mean, I could like throw you over my shoulder and stuff you in my car right now. You would like, and so I worry about that. And I also know you're allergic to physical activity. So when I see you in the middle of a desert, I can only assume you're being buried alive.
It's true. I mean, she's got the facts right. Lauren's also a true crime aficionado, just like me. She loves it just as much as I do. She's like the only person that I can, send every super disturbing like movie and TV show and podcast episode to that she won't like judge me for it and think I'm a freak.
I still think you're a freak, but that's not the reason why.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Am I messy or clean?
I think we all know how that you're disgusting is a better word.
Disgusting.
Your apartment, I can only assume, because I haven't been.
It isn't that bad.
Okay.
It's not that bad. My desk here is gross.
Your desk is an abomination. You are the messiest adult.
But there's a difference between messy.
You're not
and
dirty.
dirty.
No. You're not dirty, and your hygiene is like top notch. But you are.
I destroy.
It's like, I mean, my children are neater than you, and they're 10 months old. Like, and they just like rip things down from the walls with no regard to anything. That you are like that on steroids. You're very messy.
Someone asked, how childish am I in a cute way?
What does that mean?
I don't know. This is what they asked. How childish is she in a cute way?
Okay, so when Alex comes to stay with me in Indiana, I have to put child's juice in my fridge.
I have a juice every day or a Dr. Pepper.
She drinks with straws.
Always.
I have like even straws. In my with my glassware, you drink with a straw if you can. You eat cake for breakfast. And tiramisu and cookies sometimes.
That is breakfast food.
Okay. I mean, you're very but okay, so you're like mature emotionally, but you're very childish. You have childish I mean, you still take baths like every day, like
Why
as
is
your
that?
form
I don't think
of.
That's weird. I take a bath every day because I don't wash my hair every day, and it's the easiest way to clean my body, and not get my hair wet.
You're soaking in your own filth.
No, I'm not. That is your own. You have your own personal vendetta against bathing.
I picture baths as like. Lauren, an occasional luxury.
Lauren only takes baths after she takes a shower, which I like. At that point, I'm already clean and I'm ready to get out. I'm hot and my fingers are already pruny. I don't want to be in there anymore. Okay. What are some of the craziest things we've gotten into as friends?
Probably the night we met Hot Felon.
I'll let you tell this story.
We should have talked about this when you asked if you had a bad picker. Alex and I went out one night. We went out to a club.
And I'm going to say club like this because now living in Scottsdale, I know what a club is.
It wasn't.
This is Indianapolis, Indiana club. Like there's more of a party at White Castle. I'll just say that.
Right. I trepidatiously say club, but we went there. We went to this place with loud music and red lights. And I'm trying to remember all the specifics. I think you were there because another guy was like interested in you and you had met him and like gone on a date or something.
I don't remember.
And anyway, we get there and you're talking to him. I'm dating Aaron at the time, so I was kind of bored out of my mind. But like just watching you talk to this guy.
Being my bodyguard,
I was just sitting there on my phone. And so you met this guy, he's like talking to you. So you're talking to him all night. He comes up to me and he says, you can go home. I'm going to drive her home tonight. And I look at this guy and I was like, no, you're not.
You're like, the hell you are.
I was like, that's absolutely not happening.
And I'm like, woo, he's going to take me for a ride in his red leather
like a red car. Yeah, like a sports car. And you were like, oh, I'm just going to let him drive me home. And I was like.
Very stupid of me as a true crime connoisseur. Yeah. By the way, I'm crying.
I was
laughing.
like, no, you're not. But I was like, I'll humor these ding-dongs for a second. So I asked to see his ID and I took a picture of it.
I thought you fished his ID out of his pocket while we were making out.
I did not do that.
I thought you did. That's how I tell the story every time.
You're telling it wrong. That would be like way more juicy. But no, he willingly gave it to me because I said I was never going to let you go home with him. But I told him.
You're like, sure.
That I was like, give me your ID. And I took a picture of it. And then, time went on. And I was like, I'm still not letting her go home with you. We don't know you. And you seem unsafe. And then you came home with me. And then I did a little quick Google.
A background check.
I did a background check. I played around with this for quite some time because I was like, I'm not paying for this background check. I finally found a free one. He had like 7 charges against him, all these mugshots, like one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. And I was like, Alex, you wanted to go home with a criminal. Right. Like you were adamant about going home with a criminal.
So we called him hot felon.
We called him hot felon. And then she talked about him on the radio. And then his girlfriend
of 2 years, who was an NFL cheerleader with 6-pack abs,
DM'd Alex and was like, I think
No, she did it. She called into the radio.
Oh, I thought she messaged you.
I don't know.
You had her call in.
Yeah.
She messaged you, and then because you sent me screenshots.
Yeah, she said, what's hot felon's real name? Because I think he's my boyfriend of 2 years.
Yep. And then you were like, call in.
Yeah. And so her and I went out. We became friends. You went out with me, with her. And we're still, we're friends. Like, we talk and stuff. Like, we message.
She's
and
a very cool girl.
Yeah, very cool.
And they broke up, by the way.
Yeah, and now she's doing way better without him. So anyway, that's the hot felon story. Definitely one of the craziest things we've gotten into as friends. Okay, here's a good question. What is something that would shock people about me that I probably wouldn't ever be willing to share myself? But I'm giving you the green light to share whatever you want.
That you very much were a launching pad for Crime Junkie.
People right now, I'm very nervous. I've never, ever, 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 ever shared this publicly, ever.
I am shaking. I am shaking out of fury and nervousness. But when you were on the radio, you came to me and you said, I have an idea to do a show or a segment once a week covering a true crime, a murder. I want to call it Murder Monday. Came to me with that idea. I said, that's incredible. People would love it. You went to a networking event.
It was like a
job
charity,
fair.
Not a job fair. It was like a nonprofit fair. So in Indianapolis, there was like this thing at the public library, like all these nonprofits set up a little table, and you could walk around and see if there was a nonprofit that you wanted to get involved in.
Right, and you met Ashley Flowers.
And I met Ashley Flowers.
She was there with Crime Stoppers.
Correct, because she was a volunteer with Crime Stoppers.
Yes. And you hit it off. And
I walked up to her because obviously as a true crime fanatic, I saw, the Crime Stoppers desk, and I saw a girl that looked about
our age.
And I was like, oh, cool. You volunteer with Crime Stoppers? Like, that's so neat. Mm-hmm. And so as she's talking to me, I'm like, whoa, like this girl has an incredible voice. I mean, my radio mind went there. And I said to her in the moment, I said, have you ever thought that you have an amazing voice for doing podcasting or radio?
Yeah.
She's like, no. Well, actually, I've never thought of that.
Yeah. So you started Murder Monday with her.
Right. So I said, well, I have this thing that I'm working on starting right now. I'm wanting to start this segment called Murder Monday where I cover, a true crime story. And if I had somebody like you from Crime Stoppers that kind of brings in a feel-good element, like that we can tell people we're doing this segment to bring attention, to the work that Crime Stoppers does locally to solve unsolved crimes. And so we can end each segment, with the Crime Stoppers phone number and encouraging people to call in if they have information on a murder.
Well, and you thought that if you were a selfish person, you could have just done it. Like you could have just done Murder Monday yourself.
Right.
But you were like, I think it will be more compelling to bring somebody else in. And she had a great voice.
She has a great voice.
And she knows true crime.
Yes. And
I mean, she does.
And it made sense for her to come on and kind of tell the story. Like her and I would, communicate about what the story was going to be that week, the case that she would cover. And then she would, tell my co-host and I what she was going to do. And send us, clips and things to add into the story to make it really larger than life. And it was just an incredible segment. She did an incredible job. It blew up. We were getting thousands and thousands and thousands of clicks per month on our radio station website for people to go back and listen to the segment if they didn't hear it live. Other radio stations across the United States started doing Murder Monday in their city. Tampa did it. Minneapolis did it on KDWB. It was a huge thing that these other massive pop radio morning shows started doing because it was such a success in Indianapolis where we were doing it. And it had never, by the way, covering rape and murder in morning drive radio had never been done.
At like 6 a.m.
That's a no-no. And I had to fight with my bosses behind the scenes to do this segment because I knew it would rip in a good way. I knew that it would be a success. And I just said, I am our audience and I know what our audience would like. And I've always bet on myself my entire career and I knew it would do well. And it did. And Ashley it was a huge part of that because of her storytelling skills.
Well, and she, right out of the gate, was incredible. Like first episode, no learning curve, incredible. She was mesmerizing. She grabbed you with the story. She did an incredible job. And then things.
But wait, before you get to that though. Before we launched Murder Monday also, her and I went out for wine to discuss.
We hung out.
Me and you and her hung out.
We went to dinner.
There's pictures on my Instagram. If you really scroll back and look, there's pictures of me, her, and Ashley Flowers hanging out.
We went to dinner. We went to my favorite murder like
meetup.
Mm-hmm. And I, to this day, I'm going to say she's a cool girl to hang out with.
Absolutely. And the thing is though, during our meeting, when I was talking to her about like what my vision was for this segment, verbatim, I told her, I want this segment to be different because every other true crime podcast I listen to, I can't stand how they banter for like 10, 15, 20 minutes or small talk before. I want them to, you got to get into it. No rabbit holes. That was super important. And
you told her to keep her last name.
And I told her, keep the last name Flowers because it's such incredible, like this irony that you're doing all these horrible, dark stories and your last name is Flowers. I told her that because she was about to get married like a month later.
And she did. Yeah. And she did. She listened. So Ashley Flowers 100% came up with Crime Junkie on her own, launched it on her own, but she launched it while still doing Murder Monday, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you promoted Crime Junkie on radio.
Well, no, she wanted to, and I said no.
No, you did. The first couple of episodes, you guys let her promote, and then you were like no, and then that's when it kind of.
Well, and so the falling out part and the part that's aggravating, which I've never talked about, is that in all these interviews, when people ask her, well, how did you start Crime Junkie? She's never once said like,
I was on Murder Monday.
I was on Murder Monday, or, well, she's talked about being on Murder Monday. She says that she came up with the idea.
Right.
She's never.
She said that she came to you with the idea, and which is not
true.
Not true.
She's never told the story. I'm telling you right now, she has never told the story of this random radio girl finding her in the library and saying, "You have a great voice. You should do podcasting or radio."
Right.
And so all of that, like, I would never try to take credit for, and which is why I've never told the story, because I don't want it to come across as if I'm trying to take credit for Crime Junkie, because that's her. That is her. She came up with that. She had merch right out the gate. She had amazing branding right out the gate. Everything was so perfect. I had nothing to do that. All I did though was I felt like I encouraged her to do it, and I've never gotten one thank you or shout out, which I just think is BS.
Well, and then she stopped. No massive fallout, but she just completely quit talking to you, which was so weird because you got along so well. So there was like no reason to just unfollowed you on Instagram. Like, that was really weird. And that's, yeah.
Do you think our friendship would have worked if one of us wasn't conservative?
Yes, but I don't think that it would be what it is. And I don't think we would be as close because and you don't either. I mean, I don't make my life an echo chamber. So I have very good friends of mine. Some of my friends that I've known forever, I mean, don't believe all the same beliefs as me, and it has no impact on our friendship. And I love those people, and it's great. And I think that, you know, you are pretty open-minded too. You're not going to shun somebody who just because they don't believe the same thing as you. I very much am of the belief, if you treat me well, I will love you.
Which I don't. I only slap you around once in a while.
And so I would never not be somebody's friend because of that. But I don't think we would be as close because we bond over our beliefs about so many things. You know, you and I both are extremely passionate about child sex trafficking. We're passionate about pro-life,
pop culture,
all of those things, like, and our faith, like, we bond about all of those things. And so I feel like
we have everything in common. I don't think we have anything that's not in common, do we?
I do not like SpongeBob.
She doesn't like SpongeBob. She doesn't like chicken noodle soup. Two things I don't understand, may never forgive and get over.
But, you know, we have all these things that like really bring us together. And I think I don't really talk politics with any of my friends because they're not into it. They have beliefs. I'm not saying that, but like that's just not their passion. That's not something they're super into. And politics stress me out. You know that. But I'm not in the know. Like I pay attention to things and I am interested in, like, I can talk to you about that I can't really talk to those other people about. And
you rewatch Bernie Sanders speeches every day.
Every day.
Just joking. She's very conservative.
But I can bond with you about those things, and I also can talk to you. I mean, I also have other friends that like are into pop culture, but like not the way we are. I can talk to you about something that happened in 1985, and you know what I'm talking about, and I can talk to you about something that happened yesterday, and you know what I'm talking like. So I don't think we would be as close.
Do you think we'll be friends forever?
Yeah.
Are we going to be old?
You're stuck with me.
I always say that Firefly Lane show reminds me of us, but
so
you
offensive.
You don't like that. But I say that reminds me of us because of their level of closeness and like devotion to each other. Even though one of them is kind of a crappy friend, I don't mean that. I don't think that's like us. I just think their closeness is, and how their families are intertwined and they're always a part of each other's lives and they talk so often. That's what reminds me of us.
Right. But that's the only. She's sleeping with her friend's husband.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not sleeping with her husband, folks. Okay. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on the Spillover with me. I love you.
Love you.
I think there are people that are supposed to be in our lives through certain seasons and for certain reasons, and sometimes those won't be for very long. The friends you have for a lifetime, though, once you have them, are so special and precious, and they take work from both people to keep that friendship going. This was one of the more conversational episodes of The Spillover, and you got to know a lot about me that maybe you didn't know or maybe you didn't even expect. Lauren and I both are excited to read the 5-star reviews on this episode with your own stories of friendship and what surprised you the most about me based on what Lauren shared today. Do you have a Lauren in your life? It's never too late to find that person. And I really hope that you'll consider coming to YWLS this year because besides Lauren, some of my closest friends to this day are girls that I met at Turning Point conferences. And I'm bringing Lauren to her first YWLS this year. I told her that she has to go. I'm prying her away from her brand new twin baby boys. Her husband wasn't very happy, but I told him I will kidnap her myself and bring her if I have to. Sometimes episodes of The Spillover will be more lighthearted and feel good, and sometimes they'll challenge you, shock you, or teach you something. Sometimes it'll be a name that you've heard of, and sometimes it won't. But no matter what, every week, The Spillover features an interview with someone interesting and totally unique. Subscribe to The Spillover on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, so new episodes will immediately download for you every Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific and midnight Eastern when they drop. Each episode is also available to watch on YouTube. Just search for Poplitics and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Alex Clark, and this is The Spillover. Love you, mean it. Bye.
If you thought navigating the dating scene was hard as is, wait till you're trying to navigate the dating scene as a conservative.
And I'm not playing these games. I'm not playing these games. I'm not playing these games.
I'm sure some of you already know that it do be like that. So to make it through, here's a little dating advice based on what I've learned as a 20-something conservative who's experienced every type of scenario you can imagine. And I mean every.
This is probably the worst date I've ever been on.
I'm Alex Clark, and this is POPlitics. Here's some of my conservative dating advice to live by. Rule number 1. Be friends first, or at the very least, make sure you can have fun together. If you start getting to know each other as friends first, it helps to make the getting to know one another process a little easier without the pressure of romance or expectations. Plus, this is the chance to see if he would still love you if you were a worm, or if he's a dude-servative for reals.
Worms everywhere?
Sometimes people say lots of things the other person wants to hear when first dating because you think you're in love, you don't want to lose the other person, and you think you'll just work it out later. I'm here to say, nope. Spend quality time together for a couple months before making it official. With and without each other's friend groups too, so you can see what they're like alone and what they're like with the people they spend the most time with. Because you know what they say, you are the average of the 5 people you are around the most.
Don't you get it? I want to go on a date. I'm lonely.
Rule number 2, don't date a lefty. Just don't do it. It will almost always be such a massive waste of both of your time if you're dating to find someone to marry at all. Raising kids will be a nightmare and a full-on ideological war at home.
Well, isn't that just convenient for you?
This is the rule, not the exception. Someone I work with here at TPUSA used to be a leftist. She was even dating a conservative. He was really patient with her, and finally, after several years, she left the left, and now they're engaged. But that is like finding a needle in a haystack. Don't count on people changing.
Dialogue. We had a little dialogue.
And if he's a lefty, you know his parents probably are too. In-laws can be a whole dang pill to swallow during the holidays already. Plus, marriage in general is hard. In-laws are not. My married friends can tell you for a fact that as rewarding as marriage is, there is so much work and compromise and communication involved. Don't add on unnecessary stressors if you don't have to. Building a family with the same values is so important to your life.
Okay, you can dump him now.
The only other caveat for this rule is if they vote differently than you, but otherwise are completely unengaged politically and it doesn't bother them that you're conservative at all. If you are also the same way and you don't care to constantly be engaged in what's going on in the world politically, then maybe you'll have a chance, but if one or both of you eats, sleeps, and breathes politics, run. Run, Forrest, run! Rule number 3, don't compromise on your fundamental beliefs, political, religious, or anything else that you know without a doubt is a deal breaker to you, like smoking or not wanting kids.
You gotta be willing to give and take.
Story time. So a few years ago, I went on a dating show and there was a guy who leaned left while I leaned right.
Oh my.
He asked me point blank on the show, are you pro-life even though you're a woman?
Sure.
And I had to choose in that moment. Do I lie or downplay what I believe to keep him around a little longer? Or do I take the L, lose him, but go to bed knowing I chose the truth? Here's what happened.
You don't believe in pro-choice?
No, I'm very pro-life.
What became kind of chit-chatty, nice, flirty conversation got serious.
Pro-choice versus pro-life? That's a tough one, because...
Would that hard for you? Would that be like a deal breaker for you?
There's such a thing as a deal breaker. I'm not like that rigid, but it's at least on that one item, I don't find that acceptable.
I have dated people that have completely opposite views of me, and we can discuss like, wow, we're so different, but like Ben, he's just like, oh, like I'm thinking different of you as a person because you feel that way.
I would definitely prefer to like marry somebody that had the same like views and values and those types of things.
Yeah, but you're like 23. You don't even know what your goals in life are yet. Like you're still like learning these things.
Oh dear. The fish ended up on the filthy floor.
When you decide to start dating, you have to go into it with your principles figured out. Principles are fundamental truths that form your system of belief. When someone is dating you, they're technically dating your values too. Not every guy is going to agree with you, and relationships require compromise. But compromise on where you're going to dinner or what vacation you'll take next. Don't compromise your principles.
Where do your loyalties lie, with your family or your principles?
Rule number 4, recognize that every conservative and dude-servative is different. Again, just because someone says they're conservative doesn't mean you necessarily share the same conservative views. I've been in quite a few serious relationships with men who consider themselves to be conservative, and they couldn't be more different from one another.
It's a tough call. They're so different.
Even if you and your significant other both fall on the conservative spectrum, it's important to understand that we all need to be listened to in our own way. Individual personalities feel heard and respected differently. If you haven't read the 5 love languages yet or taken their free quiz to find out your love language, I recommend it. Once you've taken that, you'll feel like a Care Bear shooting out love to your partner. And that wasn't an innuendo. My boyfriend is a conservative, but I would say that he leans a little bit more to the moderate conservative side, and I definitely lean further right than him. But at the end of the day, the same things matter the most to us.
We gonna get along just fine.
Rule number 5, remember you can talk about other things besides politics. Not everything has to be about the news, Hollywood communism, and weekend activism events.
It doesn't?
No! Talk about your favorite memories from childhood. If they believe in God, what scares them, who their celebrity crush is, or their favorite place in your town. There is truly so much more to life beyond politics, and you're all smart. Think of something that doesn't end in a fight.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
Okay, maybe don't ask that question on a first date.
Too soon? Okay.
So those are my 5 dating tips, but now I'm going to read some of yours. Tara said, on the first date, ask yourself, would he be able to provide for me in a zombie apocalypse?
I said certified freak. 7.
Mackenzie said, take them to SAS with you.
All we ever hear from you is blah, blah, blah. All we ever do is go, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Haley said, if you're on the apps, blatantly list conservative in your bio and weed out a bunch of crazies.
Oh, my God. What is that? What was that? Is that cheese? Have you eaten cheese? How much cheese have you eaten today? How much cheese is too much cheese? Any amount of cheese before a date is too much cheese. I had a lot of cheese. I had a block of cheese.
Kellyanna said, find someone who will wait until you're married to have sex.
I like sex. It's nice.
The classy, sassy conservative said, chase after that toxic masculinity. Those are the real alpha men.
I am a man.
Dahlia said, don't settle for someone that says he's a moderate. He has to be conservative. Well, listen, my boyfriend's not a moderate. I'm just saying that he would be more moderate on the conservative scale than me, but he is a conservative.
It's called congratulations. You played yourself.
Clee said, imagine that person parenting your child. It'll put things into perspective real quick. That's a good one.
Great. Jeffrey, put down the crossbow. I am so tired.
Emma said, pray with them and for them. Talk about your plans for finances, family, and healthcare early on.
Seriously, how much money you make?
Steph said, don't fall for the engagement without the ring. Woo! Steph bringing the fire. That is a very, very good one, and I wish I would have thought of that. Actually, while we're getting dating advice, how about we walk around and get some from Turning Point staff? Come on. Emma, what is your #1 piece of dating advice for conservatives?
To never date just because you're lonely. You should always wait for the right person to come along, and when you're ready, and I promise you it'll be worth it.
My dating advice is when my girlfriend and I first started to go out, we were new to this new city, so we went everywhere together. We tried all the new spots, and it was so fun getting to know the place we were living in and everything like that. So I would say go places together, have fun, enjoy your time together, and not just enjoy the little things in life.
Don't be afraid to fart in front of each other.
My dating advice is date people that are similar-minded or pursuing the same things, because it's okay to be different, but it's not your job to fix them or change them.
So I'm married. I think my best piece of advice is to stay off the apps. Go meet people in real life. Ask your friends. I met my husband through a friend of mine from work, and now we're happier than ever.
If you're dating a guy and you maybe have to do long distance or something like that, and the guy tries to say, well, it's long distance, it might not work out, that is wrong. Don't let a guy tell you that long distance won't work out. If the guy wants to make it work, he will make it work. And the same thing can be said for women, but long distance relationships should not be an excuse for an end of a relationship. If you guys love each other, you should totally try and make it work.
#1, honor God with your relationship, because if you both have a higher standard, everything will go smoother.
That's so good. Did you have one more thing?
Yeah, I just wanted to say also there are 2 ways that your dating relationship could go. It could either end or it could go towards marriage, so date intentionally.
And there you have it. Conservative dating advice to live by from yours truly, conservatives, and straight from HQ conservatives. Hit the like button, share your best dating advice in the comments, post this episode to your stories to help us hit 100K, and hit that save button. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's pop culture without the propaganda every single day. I'm Alex Clark, and this is aPpRoPriAtIoN. So Support Poplitics, the first ever conservative pop culture daily show, by subscribing to our channel, turning on notifications, and of course, hitting the thumbs up. Also, our main home is on Instagram. Seriously, just trust me, that's where the real magic happens. Follow us there at Poplitics.